Well, everybody, I ran out of ideas for funny intros, so here we are talking about Chainsaw Man. No.
True.
What?
Wait, we like starting
Having a
again? Or
discussion.
what?
I think we should.
Wait, did your internet mess up? Hello? Oh my god.
No, keep the recording going. Keep
Oh,
it going.
Okay, people are gonna love
Yeah,
this.
no, we're keeping this in. And we're with Jarky Bacon. Oh, it's me. And we're with It's Me.
That's true. I love.
It's merely Chainsaw Man.
True, merely Chainsaw Man. I love Chainsaw Man. I talk about it every week.
Oh yeah, and we've got Ari here, which
That's
is fantastic.
me. I'm EliteAri.
And we have Kyle Entertainment.
Oh
my god.
Others, everybody. Some are better, some are good, some are in good condition, some are not in good condition. And when you make a funny motion with your hands to clap, you might just knock the microphone cord a little bit.
Oh. Well,
now, did you keep all that in, EliteAri? Were you still recording?
Yes,
Yeah,
no,
we're going. Keep going. The audience is listening right now.
So today here, everybody, we're talking about Fire Punch chapters 56/57 to 83. Can you believe there's 83 chapters? And every time I say there's 84, no, I say there's 82. Now that's just crazy. And this is our final portion of the Great Fire Punch. You know, we did part 1, we did part 2, and everything. The rule of threes. We're here for 3 ones. Now, if we're recapping everybody's thoughts, everybody loves Fire Punch except EliteAri, who hates it and doesn't believe in the great references it makes all the time. So, should we start with him? Every time I'm a bit conflicted on whose thoughts we should start with. What did they think about the ending of the Great Fire Punch? Did it fall off? Did it miraculously lead to new heights? Now, hold on, I'm predicting. EliteAri is going to think this was the best part, and everybody else isn't. But we're going to start with Jarky Bacon, because I don't think we've ever started with him before on one of these.
This was interesting, the ending. It was kind of what I was expecting Fire Punch to be more of. I think last time I said, it's actually kind of easy to follow. And then it got to this point. I was like, it's less easy to follow. A bit more abstract, but not too crazy. So, yeah, it's good fun.
Well, I think this part is easily the most straightforward part. But anyway, so next we'll go to, we've only got 2 choices. It's just like, EliteAri, you're next.
Yeah, this is easily the best part of Fire Punch. And it was
fucking God.
really, you know what, this felt like I'm reading another Fujimoto work here. This is fantastic. It's up there with this other stuff. I like it a lot. I don't know how much I'll have to say about it, but it was fantastic. I love this a lot.
I thought you said that we peaked at chapter 1.
We did, and this actually exceeded chapter 1. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Oh, we can agree to that at least. Mia, speak some sense to these 2 idiots. Except Bacon said some good things, I think.
I did not really like this chunk of the story. We'll get into it. I didn't like it that much.
I'm just right on every coin. I can just predict these 3 predictables every time. It's crazy.
Yep.
I got 1. Yep, that's good enough for me. Mia, were you saying something?
No,
you want to
we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll get into it. I've got a bit of a plan here. Now, I will say...
Wait, what do you think about
the Great Fire Punch? Oh, do you think I'm not starting right now,
I just forgot.
EliteAri?
Go ahead. Yes, please.
Oh. He's just so mean to me, chat. You ever notice that? He's just so prickly.
Trying to help you out.
So I've created
Who's
a
chat?
monster.
Who's chat? We're not
Chat
streaming.
is all the great people
You see
listening to this right now. Now, the Great Fire Punch, of course, Togata, the greatest part of Fire Punch. And then there's a part of the story where Togata is not really in it. And that's this part of the story, specifically designed by me to be split into this 3rd part without Togata. Now, I've always said Fire Punch was a 10. I've always thought that the last half was a little wacky. Not in the sense of how Fire Punch is regularly wacky, but as I remembered it, a lot of stuff just kind of happened, and I didn't really remember much of the ending. Like, I remember, I think Minty was talking to me the other day, and he's like, oh yeah, it's really cool that, like, the last 2 chapters are from, like, Judah's perspective. And I didn't remember that at all. Though I did remember, I thought it was just, like, half a chapter, which was actually 2 chapters. But I did remember the ending, of course, the floating in space, etc., etc. But I remembered, like, I didn't really remember whatever ended up happening to the not Eye Switch girl, and I remembered Sun killed her, but I didn't remember the context. I remember a lot of people complaining about Sun being boring and not really being interesting at all, and he's just sort of the final bad guy, and who really cares? People generally don't really like the sister stuff either, from what I understand, but I always liked the sister stuff. I thought the sister stuff was cool. I like the Luna stuff. But yeah, it's kind of like there's the beginning part, there's the middle Togatha stuff, and then there's the end part, and what even happened there. I will say, going through this time, everything feels a lot more like structured and like it isn't wacky or week to week or something like that, like people might generally say. So in that sense, I think I probably like this latter half more this time through. So generally, I still really like it. There's not really any jokes. It is a little funny in parts. And there's really not that much meta stuff at all besides the theming stuff. So those are kind of the two aspects I like the most about Fire Punch, and they're a little absent. It's more about Agni and then kind of some other characters too, but mostly about Agni. So it's definitely different. It's interesting. It's probably still going to be the least memorable part, though I don't think it's bad by any means. So we can all attack Emiya later. EliteAri, does that satisfy your cravings?
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting.
My goodness. I will just reiterate, because we'll go through the orbiters really quick. Minty, I think, has basically the same opinion about me on Fire Punch. Miller the Killer thought everything was great until Togatha happened, and I think is with Miya very much so, and thinks that basically the rest of Fire Punch is terrible, and it brought it down to a 5 out of 10, he says. My goodness.
Wow. And that is like, may as well be a 0 on the Miller scale.
Frankly.
Yep.
If I ever gave something a 5, it would be the equivalent to a 0. I don't even think I'd give Arcane a 5. My goodness. Now, oh my god, you can see Arcane stuff on EliteAri's channel featuring me. It's crazy. We're not getting too many views over there. We need your help.
Maybe Ari would get more views if he just did it by himself.
Oh, no, the people, they love me, Bacon. Except for that first discussion where they said, this other guy is annoying, and it had 4 upvotes.
Yep.
Don't worry, I got him back in that Mushoku Tensei nonsense. I told him what was what. Actually, I think that was after that. Anyway, that doesn't matter. We can go through the plot. We can talk about characters. Does anybody have something burning about everybody else's introduction that they just want to assault? EliteAri, you got anything?
Not really. No. I guess okay. I didn't really know what to expect. The story has changed a lot, I guess, since the last time we watched, so I was expecting a change in opinions. Yeah.
EliteAri would be watching manga. He got no clue.
Watch it with my eyes.
Now,
yeah, I got him.
Mia, do you want to slowly drip feed into what you found bad, or do you want to start us off?
Okay. So yeah, when I started my notes, I had a section before I start. Here are the things I want. Don't just drop Togatha. I want Togatha to be important. Kinda. Keep Agni on this morally questionable trajectory. We got that. I think that was actually really good. And hashtag Let Sun Matter 2024. I think the monkey's paw kind of curled there. I think that's definitely where a lot of my distaste came in, because I liked where Agni was going the whole time. The way Sun gets brought back in, I really didn't like it. Maybe it's just because it's not what I wanted for Sun as a character, but it felt so disconnected from what Sun was or what Fire Punch was before. And in a way, I know that's intentional, but maybe it just didn't work for me.
He's a little crazy, but I do agree. I do think Sun is probably the weakest part. Like, I don't think I ever really cared about Sun, so turning him into the final bad guy. And I kind of got some thematic stuff. Yes, EliteAri, you can hear from your gasps that you were going to say this, and I think you said this last time. But, or probably the first time. Oh, yeah, Sun was in last time a little bit. So it could have been last time. Anyway. Yeah, and he sort of becomes... my recalling of it before I read this part was like, oh yeah, Sun's just like a crazy bad guy. He's like the cult leader. It's like, oh, at the beginning, it's kind of a core themes and changing context thing. At the beginning, he just loved Agni, and we liked it because he was on his side, and it was cute and funny, the things he believed, but now they've turned dark, and his silly beliefs have gotten into him trouble, and he only looks into his personal history to determine what's true, and that's just not good, and he's riling up the crowd, and there's a boring mob that chants Fire Punch, etc., and they beat up all the cool characters, and he sucks. But, EliteAri, here's your passionate Sun defense. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, I can say exactly what you said, but say it with like a positive tone, I guess. I really appreciate the fact that back when we were reading him, I guess early on, I was like, yeah, Sun is okay. He's like a comedy character, I guess. And the comedy is in the fact that the things he is saying is so deranged and kind of crazy. He's like obsessed with Agni, with to a kind of insane degree. And that kind of gets turned on its
Every
head.
time
here.
he prays.
Yeah, here on the
Agni saved.
in the final stretch, that insane obsession is kind of being given to someone who has a lot of power now and is leading to something pretty dangerous, which I think is a really cool change up from what it was initially. So I found that change really interesting and compelling. Yeah.
I think it's also like when you're a kid like that, he is like maybe one of the most traumatized. He's like the most normal acting person in some ways, because like he, in terms of what I'd expect, in terms of like if you're in an environment, you'd be like completely messed up, where like you're like a little kid, people try to kill you, and then they realize they can use it as firewood. They cut off your legs, and then
they did try to rape him with dogs too, Bacon.
Yeah, exactly.
But he didn't really understand what was going on there. So.
No, true. But it's just like in his head, he has every time he's needed this one figure to help him, it turns up, right? And so then he's just got like this massive, I'm not sure what to call it. I don't know what
owner for him.
Yes. No.
Kind of works, huh?
I didn't get it.
Wait, about
anyway, non-sexual boner. Yeah.
I would say it's like a.
That's all I'm saying.
It's definitely it's a delusion for sure, right? He has a deluded obsession with Agni, right?
Yeah.
EliteAri relates to deluded characters. Got him. Killed him. He's dead.
That's so funny.
Anyway, but actually, guys, Agni is son. Do you ever think about
that? No.
Towards the end, he is.
Oh, he is. So yeah, he is.
We'll talk about that towards the end. Now, if you recall, last time we did a funny thing where we were going to do 2 truths and a lie because we were speculating about prediction things, and I told everybody to bring it back up. The only thing I thought of for the 2 truths and the lie was that I was going to say Agni is son, and that would have been very funny, and that would have been one of my truths. But I couldn't think of the other 2 because I was too hung up on that one, and my laptop was flat at that point, so I couldn't type anything or write anything down. So if you were not hungover, if you're on the edge of your seat waiting the whole week to see what my truths and lies were going to be, that was it. And Minty also called it immediately when he listened to that part. He's like, you were just going to say the Agni is son thing, weren't you? And I said, yeah. So, we're just on the same wavelength. So, can you believe that? But anyway, that's all thematic stuff. We'll probably have to wait further in. So son is boring, son is good. We've got differing opinions here. I will just say, when Bacon said the most normal person, I guess Bacon didn't really mean the most normal person. He meant the most normal person towards the environment in which they come from. Ninetto is probably like the most normal person, I would say, and that's definitely how we're supposed to perceive her towards the end. And then she's old and she dies. Crazy.
Crazy.
But we'll talk about all that later, I guess. The overall impression stuff, I think we've gone over all this. I do think it was more cohesive the second time. The only funny thing is Agni trying to kill himself all the time. True, funny. I think we probably should do a bit of plot by plot just so we can build up to certain things. So we ended last time with the sisters, who aren't really sisters. I don't even know if they refer to themselves as sisters. I just remember them as the sisters. So. Well, there's 2 twins, but then there's Doma's other daughter, and then there's another girl that's completely unrelated. So Agni is endearing himself to them by helping out, except they're still kind of mean to him and judgmental. And then 2 of them went off at some point, and one of them got kidnapped by some Behemdorg refugees and stuff, and she was captured and stuff, and then Agni goes to save her and stuff. But then he like rages out and doesn't see what happens, and he accidentally kills her, but he brings her body back, and then they're like, okay, you can kind of stay here. And then because he's just so strong, the one that got raped and is with child asks him to kill Fire Punch because they also confirmed that Doma was dead because they're all Doma disciples. And Agni agrees, and then there's a time skip, and then there's a cute little kid, and then etc. etc. Does anybody have any standout thoughts here? There's also a drowning scene with Luna. I think this is after the time skip, but I guess we can talk about Agni and Luna having sex. Then anything about any of this stuff? Anything?
Yeah.
So go ahead,
Kyle. You're like the guiding hand here. So I hope you might have this information.
I love answering questions.
So while this was going week to week, were people like annoyed with Agni not being Fire Punch and wanting him to be on fire again?
I honestly have absolutely no idea. I really don't know much about what people think about Fire Punch in specifics. Basically, everything I've ever heard people say about Fire Punch is that it's so wacky, and then the meme face. Like, I think I've watched like a few Fire Punch video, or I guess I've probably only seen Fire Punch in relation to Chainsaw Man videos on YouTube, where people will be like, wait until you get to his other thing. It's even wackier, guys. And incest in chapter 1. That's crazy. Like, any specifics about like this part, when I said earlier people don't like it, I'm just basically talking about Miller. I really have not seen much Fire Punch discussion at all. And even like, oh my god, I posted on the subreddit. I think everybody knows, maybe except for Mia, that I did that. But the subreddit seems relatively dead. I don't know if they had like release thingies at the time. Because I don't think Fire Punch really gained much traction until Chainsaw Man came out later.
There
I
are
don't know
release
when
threads.
the meme face became a meme face.
I read.
I
There are?
did
Oh my
read
God.
the last one. I read the last.
Oh,
release
EliteAri's more
thread.
informed than me. EliteAri, let us know.
Jesus.
What do you find in these great release threads?
I don't know. Nothing too crazy. They're just like, whoa, I'm talking about stuff. I don't know.
Crazy predictions.
Yeah, they've got lots of stuff
the-
on r/manga. Chapter 45,
Oh,
7
yeah.
years ago. So you can read through if you
Crazy.
want to. There's 66. There's 66 comments on it actually. So yeah.
Yeah, I
Well-
really have no idea.
The reason I was asking that is because as I was well, I guess first of all, did any of you get like a feeling like you really wanted Agni to be kind of back on fire again, back as Fire Punch, or did you want him to kind of stay the way he was? I mean, obviously he was changing a lot while he wasn't on fire, but did you want him to kind of, I don't know, maintain this peace?
This was like the part I least remembered, so I was like most excited for this part to see what the fuck was actually happening. But that's from a rereader's perspective. EliteAri, did you want the great Fire Punch to come back and punch people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's like a mix, right? Because early on, in this new like kind of storyline, I was enjoying the fact that like I truly had no idea what was going on. I guess the more I piece things together to kind of understand that, oh, this is actually literally happening like at the same time as everything else, and we haven't done some weird like time thing. And I guess the more I realized that, I was like, yeah, I kind of, I want people to see that he actually is Fire Punch and like have him light up and stuff and do the cool thing like where Thorfinn's like hiding his power or whatever. Like I want to see him actually like reveal
Yeah, I was
himself.
about to just I'm like absolute learned nothing from Vinland Saga. Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
I definitely didn't have any thought about like him being a fighter or something.
Yeah, but he's so cool, like
Like, I
physically.
don't remember.
Just the fact that, oh my god, imagine seeing him. It's like gonna be lit up, and oh, it's gonna be so cool when everyone sees.
Okay,
the...
It would ruin the great life they have. They hate
I would,
Fire
yeah.
Punch. He can't be Fire Punch.
Yep.
I have a bit of a question. So Agni did age, but they can't age because they have like regen abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they must age to a certain point, right? Because they all have adult bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that like he was really muscular now because his like body was so tensed up all the time because he was on fire, which makes no sense,
Yes.
but that was the explanation he gave. But he wasn't on fire for like 10 years and he didn't get smaller. He just maintained his muscle mass.
He's trying to kill
Well, he was
himself.
out there chopping firewood every day.
I think with the regeneration, it's probably like you could still like, I don't know, grow, but you're probably not going to degrade over time. That aspect of aging where you start to lose.
Yeah, maybe
and get
because
weaker.
he's got it, he can't lose it.
That's what I would think. Yeah.
That could suck.
Crazy.
There
He
was
just keeps getting
definitely
bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
there was definitely a like thing where when he wanted to regenerate, he could regenerate better because he didn't have his arm for a little while. And then he was like trying to pass it off as like it was slowly regrowing because he was eating in front of the sisters. But even before he met them, it wasn't regrowing immediately. And then he was like bleeding out and dying from the gunshot wounds in like the first chapter we read here and it's not until he hears Judah/Luna say live again that he like immediately regenerates.
Yeah, I
So
thought it
it's
was an
also
interesting
like
thing
a
of like how I was like initially I thought like from last time I was like his pals are gone, and then because he got hit by the tree, right? Because like he got turned not on. His fire got put out, which is crazy, right? Like nothing can put out this fire, but it put out his fire, and then he kind of comes back in like, how is he still like? Did he like lose all his powers or something? Then he gets shot, and you're like, okay, well he's regenerating slower now. Okay, well maybe he just got nerfed, and you kind of see like, oh no, it's just like his regen of power is just it's just unlocked. It's unlimited by his desire to live, basically, right?
It's like the Reiner thing when Eren nearly kills him that one time in Liberia, and Falco has that little monologue to us where he lets us know, oh, Reiner can't come out now because he doesn't want to live anymore. It's crazy. Stolen from Attack on Titan. Can you believe it? Though, Liberia is probably happening, or no, because this is towards the end of Fire Punch, so it would be like 2018. So he did steal it from Attack on Titan. This is great. There was something in there that I actually wanted to say that was pointful instead of pointless, like what I just said. The wanting to live or something. Oh, towards the beginning of these chapters, there's certainly a sense of like vulnerability. Not only because he isn't on fire and you're unsure about how vulnerable he is to attacks, but also Luna's there, and what if she gets hurt, Uwu? So it's like he's got somebody to protect now. This is crazy. And who knows what these sisters or these weird thingies or the great sword man that's going to come and kill him later are going to do. So that's pretty cool, I guess.
Crazy.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Okay. I guess I'll get into the reason I asked that later, because I think that is thematically important. I think there was an attempt. I think there's like a meta kind of thing going on with that, and I think it plays into later, so I'll just kind of hold it. But let's see. I think I really liked this whole section. I was really invested in Agni's just total delusion around this whole thing. It reminded me of just kind of like a really weird and just messed up version of post-eclipse Casca and Guts. Just like Luna's clearly not all there, and he is kind of babying her and also kind of manipulating her. And I'm glad Fujimoto keeps up in that direction. It made Agni way more interesting to me to have this kind of section of him just. I think this reinforces my reading of the funny smile panel from last time about that being a total total cope from Agni, that he's definitely not really happy with this, and that's kind of where this whole section of the story comes to a head when he starts to just get so sick and can't stomach the fake happiness he's made with everyone.
There's like contradictions in his own stuff though, because there's like he seems to be vaguely a little bit more happy, but then he's trying to kill himself every morning, whenever he's by himself. And then there's also the smile is sort of a breakthrough, genuine smile. I still think with the thing, even if it's a cope or whatever. But then he has a specific monologue where he's like, this is stupid, this isn't Luna, these girls I killed the families of, this girl that thinks I'm like their hero thinks I'm going to kill Fire Punch, this girl keeps telling me to kill myself, she doesn't even know it, and I've learned how to fake smile better and all this, and he's talking about how all of his smiles are fake. But I think part of the thematic Agni journey in this part, I guess, is like he's sort of like his misery is his own like creation, and this certainly becomes part of the thematic point when he leaves them and like he tries to be the bad guy, and then he's like not sad at all when Doma's granddaughter uses the Doma flames to put him back on fire again. And then there is like he basically throws the sisters away. We don't really see them ever again. He has like a whole chapter where he's thinking about the moral conundrum when Ninetto shows up and says, are you gonna like throw everybody here away and everybody in the rest of the world and the sisters all away just to save a girl that looks like your sister? And his thematic conclusion is like, yeah, I would. And he even talks to Luna about it. The other thing about Luna is that after the time skip, she does seem like a completely normal person.
Yes.
Like, there's no childish aspects. which is funny because I remember the sex scene happening before the thingy, so it was kind of better that it happened afterwards. And I don't know what Fujimoto is really trying to portray with that, because Luna does ask for the sex scene a bunch. I think that's just supposed to be a parallel to Luna in chapter 1.
Yeah, definitely.
Her capability to consent plus the tricking and stuff is all interesting in that conversation. But I do really I do really like this period, especially the Agni, like all the different ways he's trying to kill himself, like with the chainsaw. What a chainsaw when he's chopping down the firewood and not the firewood, the trees.
Is that a shark?
Later he's gonna javelin trees on flames at people. It's gonna be great. But yeah, I do think all of this stuff is really good. Fire Punch good, crazy. Anything else to say about sisters and stuff, guys?
I thought it's weird because I actually thought like Judah's a different character to Luna, but then this Luna was the same as the original Luna. That's what I was thinking. Like I don't know why, but it felt like they acted the same.
It's consciousness jumping or something in the same body.
Yeah, but then like what about then the original Luna as well, right? Like
well,
I don't know. Yeah.
Let's not forget EliteAri's great prediction last time that Luna wasn't real.
Sure.
Good one.
So it is interesting because I agree. I don't know if this was what Bacon was saying, but they do bring this up at some point when they're talking about how I'm sure I have a note on this somewhere, but they talk about how if someone looks like someone, then you kind of just
that's
by
like
virtue of looking,
like,
that is, it's 90% of their appearance. Like their appearance is basically almost the entire connection you have with people. Like if I saw someone who looked exactly like one of my friends, I'd be like, oh, we're naturally just friends, just because you look so similar to my friend. I feel like that's what's kind of going on with Luna, and it's like, maybe there is no Luna. Okay, maybe Luna is just like someone who looks like Luna, and everyone looks like Luna in the past, so everyone is Luna, you know? I don't know. It is what it is.
Well, there is a big moment where Sun holds up Judah and realizes that he looks like Judah, and then Judah, who looks like Luna, who looks like the Ice Witch. I don't know if I entirely get the thematic point here. I guess it could just be tying into the theme EliteAri was talking about. It could also be like the weird genetic thing they bring up that one time in the Ice Witch scene. It could also be... obviously, a big point towards the end is that Sun and Luna are neither Sun nor Luna. They've just sort of become known as that, and it's sort of these two fake symbols of humanity that exist until like the heat death of the universe or something. But they're like false, and I think it's a big thing about perception and how people are like how most symbols are perceived, and usually they're perceived wrong, but there's nobody really there to judge them as wrong, and nobody really knows that. And if they do know that, they die off or they bury it. And I think even Nineto at some point talks about how she doesn't like Agni, but it's like the new character in the last few chapters that's like, oh, Agni or Sun Sensei or whatever she says, and she's like something about how you just pretend to like somebody for long enough even though you hate them. Yep. And that ties into like the acting thing that Togato is always talking about. So there's a weird thing with perception and something going on. There's also the same sort of theme in Chainsaw Man about selfishness and how Agni is totally just going to kill everybody to save Luna, even though it might not even be Luna, which Denji seems to end up doing that a lot, where he's just going to do whatever he like wants to do, like save the cat instead of the people, and the one moral conundrum we always talk about, etc., etc. So these seem to be, and there's also perception stuff happening in Chainsaw Man Part 2 a lot. So these seems to be like Fujimoto's main two themes going on. But
I totally agree.
I don't know what's going on.
Thematically, the idea that the truth is perception, and that's kind of something we can't escape. That seems to be the whole, I guess, core theme of Fire Punch, because because we start off with the whole Agni and Togata thing, where because of how people perceive Agni based on his form, that's what makes him the main character, and there's a lot of funny meta stuff to say there. And then this kind of explains too why Fujimoto kind of jumped on the whole gender thing for like a minute, it's definitely playing into the
Yeah, 'cause it
themes
plays
more
into the theme.
of perception. And I do think it actually, I think that theme actually comes to a head very nicely in this final part. That's probably like my favorite thing about the ending. It doesn't feel, it feels like it loses a lot of like kind of plot lines, but thematically, I think it kind of sticks the landing pretty well.
Yeah. See, I
Yeah.
definitely thought like in reflecting on this before I read it, I definitely was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure like some plot lines just go nowhere in Fire Punch, but that doesn't really matter. It's not really about the plot. But now that I've reread it again, I don't know that there are any plot lines that are dropped. Like you can kind of say the eye switch, but it's basically just her motivation is subsumed by like Sun's like craziness. And like her motivation was kind of funny anyway, and she wasn't actually that strong, so it's like, oh, we can just get rid of her. She doesn't really matter.
Sure.
But that is like the big one. I can't think of any other ones though.
I thought we'd just get more answers, like I guess answering questions about the world, like if Luna was this part of this like evolved person species kind of thing, how were they siblings? How did any I don't know. That's the kind of questions I was wondering. I thought we'd get some answers on, like some kind of recontextualization about their past. But I mean, yeah, it kind of really doesn't matter because like Luna's not even here. Like the Luna that we have, as much as she has kind of become Luna, that's not the same Luna, but the whole theme idea, truth is perception, the time he spent more time living with Luna, well, Judah as Luna, than I think he got to spend living with Luna as Luna. And
yeah, it's probably
she's
like
kind of
around the same
become a true, like at this point, she has become Luna. And that's why his moral question of, do I sacrifice everything for Luna, even though she like just looks like my sister, or do I save humanity? I think he's kind of in the middle on that point for a second, but when he talks to Luna about it, I think he just can't accept that. He's not even like kidding himself that she's Luna anymore, because they have that conversation talking about how we're not actually siblings, but the connection he's formed with her isn't fake anymore, because he lived with it long enough to make it real. And that's exactly what, the character at the end is saying to son Agni about, like, if you live long enough with it, it becomes true. And I thought that plays very, very nicely into the whole truth is perception thing, but also that, because like what Tagada's whole thing is that like truth is perception, and I can't change how people perceive me, thus I have to be as people see me. And Agni's conclusion is kind of him escaping that. It's good. It's good. There's just so much weirdness that I didn't like.
There's a few interesting things because first of all, it's very interesting that Luna has a moment where she's like, yeah, I figured out that we're probably not actually related a while ago, which was a smart moment for her. Plus that leads right into the sex, brother. Let's go. But also to change subjects a little bit, not really. Something you said at the beginning, which was interesting, because this is something EliteAri said, because EliteAri made us all say what we liked about Fire Punch at the beginning last time. And one of EliteAri's answers was like world mystery stuff. And when I heard that, I was like, uh-oh.
So good.
Uh-oh. But you don't think that they just ignored all that and that was just something silly for a monologue that was funny, EliteAri? You think you weren't mad that the world stuff
what do you mean?
Really
the whole final chapters, they're going in space and destroying other planets and stuff. It's like the coolest possible world thing you could do.
I did completely forget about that, but I guess
he said he likes the mystery, not the answers to mysteries.
That's true. Yeah.
You can have your mystery forever.
Yeah, I'd be happy. Yeah. Answer mysteries with mysteries.
Okay, EliteAri doesn't hate Fire Punch. This is crazy.
No, the ending. Unironically, the ending is like way better than the rest of it for me. Like all of this stuff after our last discussion is so much better than everything that came before it, except for chapter 1, which was really good. But yeah,
you have to realize Ari is also a J.J. Abrams fan, so.
That is true. I do love Lost.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah, mystery boxes.
Mystery boxes. He loves it. I mean,
Just to go ahead.
Yeah, I think with some of the questions that weren't answered for me is like, why is the planet cold? And then then this tree just grows out and it just happens. I'm like, okay, like I guess like the fun like why we're here. I thought that would be answered, like why. Because like the ice switch did it, and we
just
knew
says we're in a ice age, right?
Does she actually just say
I
that?
actually don't remember.
Yeah,
like it keeps on
says
getting
that
colder.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you. One of the secrets is that you tell them the ice which froze the world, but really we're just in a natural ice age or something. That's something she says to Judah.
Isn't that?
Interesting.
Oh, I thought that was Togata.
Oh, it might be Togata saying that to Judah when they're going like deep underground or whatever. But I think it's the ice witch, but I don't know. Anyway, that's just what I've always taken as truth.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense, but it was just getting so cold. Like, why was it getting so much colder?
Yeah, it's like apocalyptically
Wait,
cold.
am I
end.
crazy?
Everybody's saying like the world's gonna die.
Did we talk about this last time, or wasn't there a thing where all the people they used up all the resources of the Earth, so they just left, and that's why it got cold because everything was used already, all the energy, and that's why they went to other planets? Or am I just like
they did all leave? I don't know if it was
yes.
I don't think it was because they. I think it was just because they expanded. I don't think it was because
so there was
they
no
used
elements
up all
like
the
that didn't
resources.
tie
I
up.
might be wrong.
Like that didn't cause the cold. You're saying they left and it just happened to get cold. I guess I don't remember enough.
And
to...
instead,
it's been, like,
the
so
tree
long,
that
I
made
don't
other
know.
planets cold by sucking the energy at the end. So then it's like they became what they hated.
They became what they hated.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm trying
Wait,
to piece
who
this together.
became
What do you
what they
mean?
hated?
The Earth was stealing other places. Energy, right?
Yeah,
with the tree.
With the tree, right? So like the resource of Earth was taken, and now the tree is taken.
So all the old humans,
so
the
these
Nazi
people
humans?
lost all what they had, but
Nazi humans.
Yeah, in order to get it back, they had to. I feel like I'm making sense here, but I'm not saying it right.
I think
because that never comes up again. Like they went to different planets. I just assumed that like the ice witch was just being funny in that scene.
What do you mean being funny?
But,
what does that mean? Like make it lying, like just lying?
Well, because it's right before the Star Wars stuff, and obviously it's all funny. But I was like, there's not actually
Wait,
people that left and went to space.
Oh my
Star
god!
Wars thing isn't a joke.
Because Star Wars. Oh my god.
Oh.
Well, it's a joke, but it's still her real motivation.
You're kind of funny with that. I kind of like that idea. The obsession with Star Wars, like if it's like the whole space thing about humans going to space, she just completely made that up because she just loves Star Wars so much.
That could be.
That can't be it. That would be so stupid, and that would make me even more mad.
It never comes up. But
It doesn't matter exactly.
Or something, yeah.
I think my final note is talking about my second to last note is talking about Star Wars, and then it's over. So I thought it would come around again.
Oh, you thought this is a Star Wars thing?
I thought it was going to go like the whole universe resets again, and it would end with a new Star Wars happening just as a final gag.
Yeah, EliteAri did make a prediction, or maybe it was Mia. I can't remember. I know you both talked about it though. You were like, "Oh, they're going to play the Togata film at the end of the thing in a theater."
Yes, I did say that.
So you guys were right about that. Funnily enough, I didn't remember that at all. So I thought you guys were wrong last week when you said that. But then I was like, there's a theater at the end. I just don't think there's anything playing in it. But it is funny that they just built the theater without any movies. But what do you say, Mia?
True. I wish we got more with that theater scene. I was really hoping we'd get a little bit more Togata kind of stuff at the end. I was hoping we would see some scenes recontextualized a bit more. The actual, like, what the film became kind of got skipped over a little bit more. And I think there was a lot of fun and also thematic potential there.
Yeah, I like that it's like, it was accidentally in black and white, and they accidentally didn't have any audio because they didn't have a mic the whole time and stuff like that. That's like really funny. So it became a black and white, no audio movie.
I didn't
great.
catch that. That's really funny.
But yeah, it's like, we were kind of incompetent at making movies. Lamau, it was our first try. His first try. My goodness. But yeah. So you guys got that right. just while we're talking about the future stuff a little bit, I had a funny thing because there's a thing at the end where it's like, oh, everybody's got weapons now, so we're obviously going to kill each other. And then it made me think of the time where EliteAri was gobsmacked at the end of at how stupid the end of
This is different.
Oppenheimer was, because EliteAri's like, why would anybody be scared of nuclear weapons? Obviously, they've ensured like our peace and stuff. And he was like, there's no way this is the point at the end of Oppenheimer. And I had to break the poor news to EliteAri that most people live in fear of weapons all the time. Now, these weapons are a little different, EliteAri. They're going to poison the atmosphere or something.
No, that's what nuclear weapons do,
I don't know if they were just supposed to be nukes.
My God.
Yeah, I know, but like,
No,
I don't know if it was some, because it is like
no.
super advanced, so they're like 300 years in the future. Is it better than nukes or something?
It's completely different
dynamic.
dynamic.
Poorly?
Because this isn't like a modern society with modern motivations and stuff. Who knows? These could be like
they've
a
only got
religious,
one
like
wheat
crazy, like insane cult who wants to like destroy the other side. I have no idea. Like here, I think it's a well justified fear to be afraid of these weapons that they're fighting the wheat for. I don't know. Nothing like Oppenheimer.
I just think it's funny. I just remember that EliteAri Oppenheimer moment a lot, and I wanted to bring it
I
back
still
up,
think that's the worst thing about Oppenheimer.
I mean,
It's cringe,
Ari, to be fair, that's not. It's not like, oh yeah, we're living in the timeline where none of the nukes go off, right? So because we're lucky. There's like multiple points in history where one person made the right call at a time and didn't start the nuclear fallout, right? It's easy to say in retrospect that, oh yeah, why would anybody be scared of nukes? But
Oppenheimer is pretty soy at the end, where it's like, and we're all gonna die one day because of what this guy did. Dramatic music, walks off. It was pretty epic.
Yeah.
EliteAri, do you want to defend yourself, or did I just do it good enough?
No, I don't. I got nothing to say. But Bacon's wrong.
Oh! We got a fight going on.
Well, what can I say, Ari? What can I say? I don't think you are a history guy, are you?
Not at all.
So, exactly.
EliteAri hates history whenever I bring it up. EliteAri, what year did World War II start and end?
Oh, great point.
19.
I've done this film like 7 times.
Oh no, 1939 to 1945.
Oh, crazy.
I did it! I educated him!
Crazy.
What about the first one?
1914 to 1918?
Uh-huh.
Oh, it is?
I've educated him.
Easy. All right.
It's amazing. Is this not just like smashed into your brain when you're at school as a young old
He's the one with the 17 degrees and he doesn't know nothing.
I don't care about
that. And I'm the one with 0 degrees.
Look, you have to realize this is smashed into the British brain because this is the one time we're on the right side of history.
No, Bacon, don't give him that excuse. It's smashed into our brains too. It's no different here.
Okay, well, yeah, but that's because you helped us out because we owned you at that time. So
yeah, remember when you killed us all in Gallipoli, you fucking incompetence?
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? That was your fault for signing up. All right.
But that's true.
Don't put on
Daddy America came to save the day. It was epic. Thank you, Mia.
Yeah.
Now, what were we talking about? History, World War II. I remember now. We were talking about Oppenheimer. We're done with this point. Yeah. I think this kind of changes the subject. Oh, back to something Mia said. The truth is perception thing being the theme. I think that's more like a part of the theme. I think the bigger theme is sort of the people just believe what they want to believe thing, and perception is part of that, where like a bunch of these, like virtually all of these new Agni supporters are like people that died, like their whole families died because of Agni, and they just are like deluded because they like can kind of live in peace around Sun. And it's kind of crazy like that. It's just like, oh, well, we're doing well here. We live well here. Let's just believe whatever. And like, we can forget whatever we used to believe. And the old fake king god they had or whatever. And obviously this goes into the appearance thing too, when Sun freaks out because Agni's in his super evil mode where the flames all over his face at the end. And he's like, I don't like your face, change it back. And it's sort of like he believes in Agniism so much, but only in the way he remembers it and the way he perceives it to exist. Even in reality, like Agni's not a god and he's not a good guy, and he didn't actually save him because he prayed all those times. It was just a coincidence, etc., etc. Though Sun does he has some self-awareness because he talks to Ninetto about this, and then they have this weird back and forth where it's like, how come everything Agni steps on doesn't turn into fire? And I think it's one of the few meta jokes in this part of the story. And there's, because I think what Fujimoto is saying there is this story has only certain rules, and stories only have certain rules to do what they want to do. It's not always going to make sense. And then if you put like a faulty religion in a story, it's sort of like your point is that it's like all convoluted, but you've made it convoluted. And there's sort of the story's dealing with the inherent, like the fact that they will never be sport and that it is like all created and there is no random outcome or chance. There is no real life in it. It is all created specifically for one thing. It's probably like one of the things you've got to get most over when you're like a really little kid getting into stories and trying to discern like the difference. And stories kind of fuck you up when you're little because you start to think like, oh, there's going to be some sort of karmic balance to reality, and then there isn't. And then you kind of like trick yourself into thinking there will be when you're like, well, I've been nice today, so my scratched up PS2 disc will play today when I plug it in and I press the restart button and you close your eyes and you listen for the cue to whether or not it's going to go to the menu or it's going to start the game. And you're like, but I've been like, if Ash was here right now, he did a good thing, so it would work. But that doesn't actually work, and you sort of trick it. There's like that. And I don't think much is said because I don't really know how you would even say anything about like the inherent convoluted is not the right word. What do we call it? What's the thing Bacon always complains about? Where not contradictions, conveniences. What's the word for conveniences that's small?
Sorry, hold on. It's contrived.
Contrivances. That's the word I've been looking for this whole time. Does my point make sense now? That you've retroactively put contrivance in all the times I said whatever other word I was saying? But anyway.
To build on that, I do wonder if there's something with the truth is perception with Agni's ability to turn on fire. Like, it is just his belief that he should live that makes his powers really strong. I feel like there's something to that there where it kind of
it's like it could just be the mental thing again, because there's also like it seems like his pain, so part of the theme is that his pain is like self-inflicted, where it's like when he's not on fire, he's still like, he's like, oh, it's even worse now because like I have to think about things. So, and then like the common like poor, like bad thing that's in his life is his mentality of like, oh, I've got to kill somebody. Oh, I've got to kill myself. Oh, I hate this. And so part of the thing could just be like, well, pain is even like a perception thing, and you've just, like, as long as you're enjoying living, you can live through any sort of pain or hardship thing. So I think that all ties together. But I guess my other big dot point here is that themes are not interesting, and I'm sick and tired of pretending that they are. So themes are always bad, and I don't care about themes. True. But before we talk about any of that, and we probably won't talk about that, you had something to say about how
we need to talk about that. That is the hottest take of all time. What?
But it's just the most obviously true take, right? Nobody's like, when you're deciding if something's EliteAri agrees with me. God, I love it when EliteAri agrees with me. The Miller Killer vehemently disagreeing and agreeing with you guys, by the way. I don't think I've ever been like, gee, I really like this story because of the theme. And like putting together the theme is usually not what I'm doing when I'm watching something or enjoying something. Like the mass interest in Fire Punch really is that it's funny and that it's meta and that you have no idea where it's going. Like talking about like perception themes, like, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't seem that interesting to me. I guess if you have an interesting theme, it's interesting. But like, even like, let's bring it up. We love the Great Vinland Saga here. Vinland Saga is very strong in its themes. But Vinland Saga is almost designed in a way that you don't realize the theme until way later. And I don't think at any point I'm like, man, this prologue sure does suck because the theme isn't very good. It's like, oh my god, this is political intrigue. I love this so much. So it's just like themes are like something you think about afterwards, and they sort of have a lasting thing, and obviously they can add to your enjoyment, but I don't think you're ever going to like something because you like the themes. Like, if you're like, man, these characters are boring and annoying, but these themes, they sure are hitting on a thing. I guess Arcane would be a good example in the negative here of like, there's clearly themes going on here, but my goodness, how about I kill myself before I even think about this fucking nonsense? But EliteAri always brings up that the Arcane themes are very uninteresting. I think I always agree with him. So anyway, Jockey Bacon, tell me why
I mean, like, okay, from what I remember of Arcane's themes, it's like duality is everywhere. So, like, it was.
Should we build the weapons? How about the pause? How about Cycle of Hate? Shut up, Arcane. Go ahead, Jockey Bacon.
So one thing I would say, I mean, with the whole theme thing, I do think there's something there where, like, they get you in the door themes might not be. I wouldn't say in every. I do definitely think I have actually watched something and found most of my enjoyment through the themes. But if it's like, but often, like what gets you to pay attention and you need like something to make you care about it initially. Whether it's just like pure aesthetics, like I just like this actor's acting. I like their vibe. It's an ultimate vibe check. I like I'm reading Vinland Saga. It's got Vikings. Vikings are cool. I like history or something like that. And then you get in. That's me, right? And then I get into it from there.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm like, oh my. It's not like, oh, Thor said this thing, and now the theme has been said. But I would say from there, it's like, at least with Vinland Saga, it's like when you do read it and you have that like Thor's comes so blatantly at the start and be like, this is the statement. This is like a big thesis statement of the whole thing, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. I think I understand what he meant by that, but what does he actually mean by that? And then you go through the rest of the book and your time reading, trying to kind of figure it out, and it kind of pieces together by it tells you and then it shows you, and it's kind of interesting in that way. I think movies are maybe better with some themes where you're like, oh, this clearly like. Okay, let me do something else, Carl. I'm going to give you a bone. Let's say Mad Men, episode 1. Absolutely.
No, Mad Men's the only good thing with themes ever.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Well, like I thought that first episode was really interesting just because of the thematic stuff, and they had like an interesting vibe. But like the most interesting thing was the themes of that first episode, without a doubt. Like what it was trying to say.
I wouldn't agree with that at all.
But like that's. I think that there is. Yeah,
though I did stop after watching episode 1 of Mad Men to make a whole video about the themes about sexism and stuff. So
yeah,
should have burned me with that one, Bacon. But I just like the Mad Men example is definitely like the characters say interesting things constantly, and you can't really tell where it's going. That was like the big thing for Mad Men and the twist at the end with how the episode is structured, and that's why I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm gonna watch the whole thing in like 2 weeks. This is crazy. It is like themes can definitely be enjoyable, and I'm sure there is like obviously there's no rules with this stuff, so I'm sure there's something I've watched where the theme was like it is a great thing. It's not like, oh, everything else sucks but the theme is great, but where the theme is the driving force behind why something is good. I probably don't feel that way about Vinland Saga. It is probably the closest one just because it is an interesting, like Vinland Saga has an interesting theme, like absolute pacifism, assumingly that's the theme, and like how you almost inherently discount that, but then you kind of believe in it, and how your investment in the characters can reinforce your belief in it. And that's even like that's like a hot take theme rather than a boring fucking theme where it's like, be better to the people around you, love yourself, don't be a bad guy, or live.
You just don't like bad themes. You just don't like boring stories.
That's possible, but even in the Vinland Saga example, I'm not like, well, even that might be a morally bad theme. But that might be interesting. But yeah, I guess the point is we don't really like bad things. But in the great words of David Benioff, or the other one, when they said the greatest quote of all time, themes are for 8th grade book reports. True. We don't have themes in Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is epic. I love that.
It sounds like a quote written by a 15-year-old. That thing.
True. It's so cool. True. It's so funny because I feel like the internet definitely went through a period where they thought that was epic that they said that. And then the later seasons happened and they definitely were like, look at this disgusting quote from these evil men about how themes don't matter. That's why their series fell off a cliff. So it's just funny how people just believe what they want to believe whenever they're in with the in group at the time. You know, Fire Punch was right. Yeah. When you're on top of the world, they love your comments about how themes suck and are for losers, and how it's actually about... Because that was like the thing people said about Game of Thrones a lot, was like, oh, it's not beholden to themes of like the good guy winning and honor seeing you through to the end. You know, Ned Stark can just fucking die, and the Red Wedding can happen. And that was like a thing where everybody was like, this is why Game of Thrones is so groundbreaking and we love it. And then obviously when that doesn't happen in the end, and Jon Snow was supposed to have his epic battle with the ice zombies guys, and et cetera, et cetera. God, these Game of Thrones idiots are nearly as stupid as the idiots that ruined the show. I'm sick and tired of them. But anyway, another thing Bacon said there was his dismissing of the great aesthetics here, when he's saying aesthetics get you in the door, but the themes are the real things, or he implied
no.
And I'm just going to say, Jockey Bacon, that style is better than substance every time. How about you take that, pussy?
I think the 10 out of 10s, the 9 out of 10s, and the 8 out of 10s are the ones where
Like
they
5
merge style and substance together.
Yep.
No,
And that's
boring.
that's what you need, right? You can't
It's
have
not
it without
duality.
those.
It's not compromise. It's anything can be good for any reason, Bacon.
I totally agree. I think
I've
that,
yet to,
at least
I've
what
yet
I
to find
resonate
it.
with, the best things I would ever see or read is the stuff where the style and aesthetic is a way of delivering the themes and keeping you engaged the whole time. I totally resonate with that.
Yeah. I do say that
we just
though,
got to
and
get everybody digibro pilled on the what was their version of that? Bacon, you'll remember the aesthetic is narrative, where it's like style is substance actually. But even then, that like it's not a good point. Well, it is a good point, but it's also not a good point. Where it's like, well, this is kind of muddying words, but it's getting a point across about subjectivity. But whatever.
I think it's actually funny how this. Oh God.
Well, I was just thinking in my head. I do think I actually have watched things where maybe like it's not that it doesn't lack substance, but I don't think like the themes were really like something I was properly interested in when watching like maybe like Avatar: The Last Airbender, or probably even like Arcane season 1. To be honest, I wasn't paying like a ton of like to the broader themes. But then
it is
you
very
also
funny
have
because I literally accused Arcane the other day of being style over substance. So that's very funny.
Yeah, but I would say like what it says with like maybe it's not like a grand theme, but like things with like the character writing and the depth there, or like that can then give substance, but not in a thematic way, in a weird, if that makes sense.
Yes. Like I think this is like a 5-year-old Kyle Entertainment meme, and it's sort of maintained is that I always say like, well, I always have the dismissive plot bro thing, and I always have like the what really matters is of course character interactions, and that's the best thing about anything.
So true.
And I probably still stand by that, but yeah, it really just I feel like there's a general like the split between best and greatest is sort of at the heart of the issue here, or sort of the perception issue. I think the disconnect between like what me and EliteAri would believe versus I feel like Mia is more on one side and Bacon's kind of like, well, I understand this, but I still agree with Mia. Oh my god, that sounded like Mia doesn't understand.
I don't necessarily agree with Kyle. But yeah.
EliteAri's on my side. Shut up.
I don't know about
I forgot what I was gonna say. EliteAri, why'd you make me do a funny joke there?
Sorry.
What was I talking about just now? Oh, the perception that like
perception.
Greatest versus best. That's what I was talking about. There's been a distinction sort of when we talk about things where it's almost like a self-hatred there, where it's like, well, this is my favorite thing, but I can see the flaws in it, brother, and here's the actual good thing. And usually the good thing is just the thing that people will respect you more for saying you like, versus the way you sort of say this thing is your favorite thing to sort of herd off any criticism you might get. And it's sort of an insecurity in what you like. And obviously a big thing, if you actually think art is subjective, which a lot of people say they do, but they really don't. You sort of have to like get rid of like any reason for liking something is valid as the other. So having a good mix of themes and characters and plot and great aesthetics and great art and all of this stuff, all of this can be undermined and equally given value to like, oh, she was really hot in the movie, therefore it's the best movie of all time. Like you have to bite the bullet and say that all of these things are equal, and somebody can like it for whatever reason, and it's equally valid, etc., etc. But I feel like definitely the assumed thing, and it must, I don't know if it's just a contextual thing about this sort of cultural conversation about art, or maybe it's just an inherently human thing to sort of idolize things other people like. But there is sort of you have to sort of unlearn this to get to the subjectivity point. Like the subjectivity point doesn't seem to be inherent. And most of the time when people bring up subjectivity, it's just to be defensive. But then you've got to learn that you can actually use the subjectivity thing if you actually believe in it to be to defend anything. So, I just win in the end, Subjectivity.
I'd like to pick up on that point, but I think I interrupted Mia, and I'm not sure if Mia wanted to say something. Yeah, I think
Mia's going to say, fuck you.
No, I was actually going to say, I think it's actually really interesting how this almost becomes a follow-up on the whole conversation we had with Gunbuster and Diebuster.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was about how I was saying, I feel like this is so thematically void, and you said that does not matter at all. Basically, that's kind of how it happened,
basically.
and you kind of sold me on it. You kind of sold me on it, and I actually started to like Diebuster because of it. And it's interesting how
that it actually is the perfect example, because a lot of people do, like, that type of person really likes Gunbuster and thinks Diebuster is like, oh, they made it silly and anime and uwu, and it really is like the percent of like Gunbuster is like an old thing and it's got like more like normal sensibilities, whereas Diebuster is very anime in a sense. And it's like, oh, what's this girl making jokes for and like making funny faces? I want Noriko here to be crying and dramatic and stuff like that. It really is sort of like the split between the audiences there, because whenever I've gone to look at like YouTube videos or scenes of anything, it'll be like a good scene in Diebuster, and the comments will be like, you know, I didn't care much for this shitty Diebuster, but this scene was pretty epic, and it would be like a dramatic scene. So it is very funny that there even is this, like, it really is a good example. But Mira, I hope you remembered when I interrupted you what you were going to say.
Kind of. No, I don't think I had much more. You kind
Patience of a goddess.
You picked up the ball very well there. I think you kind of wrapped up that point. I just think it's interesting that we picked Fire Punch after Diebuster as kind of like there's really no thematic reason that we picked it.
No.
But it's kind of funny how it all ties back together. And I think it's interesting how these two, I guess three sets of videos have been like almost like an exploration of why you like what you like.
Oh, that's what every conversation diverts into, because I'm an idiot.
True. But I have another thing about themes, but I'd like to go back to what Bacon was going to say to you.
EliteAri also had something to say about this. So.
Did I?
Oh, yeah, I want to like...
Did you? EliteAri piped up to say something about...
Oh, yeah, to say I disagree with you. Yeah, I mean, clearly.
Clarify,
yeah, okay, my perspective is obviously, and it's the most obvious thing if you know who I am, you know, sometimes themes are good, sometimes themes are boring. There you go.
Well, that's what I got to in the end, you idiot. I was just being funny at the beginning.
Yep, well, that's where my stance is.
I think it also...
not funny. I think in real time.
So one thing I would say is, like, to me, I do feel like there is something more thematically deep with, say, like Fire Punch, but I don't really care enough to try and dig it out. But I'd be really happy to watch a YouTube video explain it to me, and I'd be like, that's cool. You know? I do think when it comes to, like, I think it just depends on the author and what you do and how you read. Because if we go back to the thematic goat in our, or a case study in our conversation.
Hajime Isayama.
Yeah, no, if we talk about Villain Saga, and like I would say reading it monthly, I don't really care what plot is happening. I kind of care about the characters. But I care about the characters because I care about what Yukimura is saying thematically, and that's like the most. That was the most interesting part for like 3 years, reading, which is different, probably because we're doing it monthly and we only have 20 pages, and you have to take it slow, and so you get the most that you can get, and like it's just an interesting thing. But like when I binge something, I do think I will pick up on quite a few things, like. Particularly if they're like obvious enough or something I find personally interesting as like a discussion point. But yeah, and then I think one thing with themes I do like is if you notice something early on and you're trying to like fit the rest of the pieces together in your brain as you're going on, and then something clicks, and then you're like, oh my word, that's what this character.
The
this
aha
means
moment
this
can be insane.
It
can override all this stuff.
Yeah.
The problem is you usually get well, at least in my experience, like the deeper, more interesting aha moments are like 3 months later when you're like, wait a second, and you sort of put a bunch of things together or you see something. Like, I feel like that's like, even when I was trying to make the 3 most recent Berserk videos I tried to make, like, I feel like I had aha moments even about Berserk 6 years later, 3 rereads later, just writing shit down, and I only get it when I'm down like a rabbit hole or something like that.
Yeah.
On the Vinland thing, how much do you think just us generally always speculating about where the theme is going to go, do you think that's influenced your investment in how? Because I at first I was like, nah, Aina killing that dude's way more interesting than the themes. But like, if if I was to die right now, Jockey Bacon, you're gonna smite me down, and you've seen the future, and I could ask you one Vinland Saga question. It probably would be like, how does the theme end up? Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Is it good or is it bad pacifism? Like, I could ask, is Thorfinn gonna die? Is there a happy ending? Which I guess I'm kind of asking with the thematic question, but it very much is. I want to know what the fuck this theme is going about. But it really is just this stupid Vinland Saga, you know? It's unique in how it gets its claws in you. Yeah. But it is also funny if we can make the meta narrative about Jockey Bacon for a second. Jockey Bacon, anytime he watches anything you like, he's always like, I didn't really care for the characters. He's never cared for a character in his life, and he just said it about Vinland Saga, and my mind was blown. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. Jockey Bacon, who's your favorite character of all time?
Except Kettle, yeah. No, Kettle's an exception.
True. We love Kettle here. EliteAri agrees.
Yep.
Wait, Bacon, who is your favorite character of all time? I'm curious.
Of all time?
Of all time, just the first one that comes to your mind.
I can't say it off rip. I don't know.
It's gotta be Agni.
Yeah, true. Agni.
It's gotta be the Fire Punch.
Agni is a great character. Actually, I really liked him. Like
I have come around on him.
Like I feel like his internal struggles at the end and the focus on him.
Don't let him weasel away from the question. Goddammit.
We'll get back to it. I'm not letting him get away.
Yeah, I don't know. What is the greatest character? I mean, like. It'd probably be like
just the one you care about the most, Bacon. The one that you're like, they better not die.
One must have come to your head at this point.
No. I don't care if a character dies. I like want to feel something because like I might kill them.
That is true, I guess.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm
low-key with you on that. What flashed to your head? Something must have.
Yeah, I'm like thinking like Omar from The Wire. I'm thinking like Hild or Thorfinn or probably. Scar from FMA.
I was trying to think of an FMA character. I didn't think you would pick fucking Scar though.
Yeah, man.
You like a guy who kills people? What?
I like a religious boy.
He's a real actor.
I like a religious. That's why his son's the best character. Let me go to my anime list. I have like a list of characters I had in my.
Oh yeah. Just say Oscar Langley saw you, so we can move on. Jockey Bacon.
Casca.
True.
And then hold up.
Griffith.
What's the wow for? Why did EliteAri just say that?
Revi.
True.
And then also let me think.
Oh wow, Rudius Greyrat.
Eren Yeager.
No, I'm thinking also of. I'm trying to Google her name.
Sasha Browse. I know you love Sasha, Jockey Bacon.
Sasha. Oh yes. Okay. I'm just trying to. What's the blonde lady's name in Black Mirror as well?
Oh, Edda. You're so smart, Bacon. You're so smart.
Yeah, Carl. I'm just trying to repeat your top 10 favorite anime, your favorite characters.
Oh my god, you're a genius. Yeah. This is the best.
I'm trying to remember this one.
Farnese, say Farnese. She's the best.
Oh yes, I forgot about Farnese.
True, she is the best.
Ray Ayanami. Wait, what did Mia just say? What did Mia just say?
I said that Farnese is the best character in Berserk.
Oh, he's just so smart. Let's kick EliteAri out of this goddamn call. Get
Jesus. I love Farnese.
He likes guts.
What do we like, Gab?
No, and he even said Farnese. Kill him.
I love Griffith more than anyone else. That's my favorite Berserk character.
All right.
Yeah.
No, that Cichlids thing. Leave it alone.
Wait, are we being converted?
Yep.
yeah, he has been, unironically.
Yeah, I would say Rudy
I'm
Square is
satisfied.
pretty great character.
Stop lying to me.
I will say you guys all got to watch The Wire. It's got none of this snooze Madmen fest.
Oh,
Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul.
My face after glazing me.
Better Call Me when I'm dead.
True, that one sucks. We ate that one.
Kim Wexler.
Sopranos, more like Sopranos. Am I right, fellas?
That was a good one.
Watch The Wire. It is. I was thinking yesterday. I was like, the greatest scene I've ever seen in my life is in The Wire. I think. In anything ever. So I was thinking about this yesterday when I was talking to my mates with
what is the best
6 baby Guinnesses in me. So.
But anyway, we got an answer out of him. I'm satisfied. Back to themes for a second. Wait, are you?
What is Mia's favorite?
Somebody was speaking.
I think what I have to say kind of caps off the theme discussion a bit. So if you have something else to say about themes, go for it.
I had another themes tangent where it's to do with how we talk about themes. Because usually when we say themes, there has to be a better word. And I'm pretty sure thematic is like a fake word that I made up in like 2019 and made everybody say.
Yeah, you made it
Is
up.
thematic a real word? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
That was half a joke, Mir. It's okay.
I know.
My
rage subsided.
Yeah, it's over.
Because there's like hard and soft, hard and fast. There's strong and hard and soft themes we'll go with. Because hard themes are like Vinland Saga, like pacifism. It's like a theme it's like a message, right? And then there's like themes as in like symbols that repeat or something. And I feel like the symbols that repeat are almost more relevant to the actual viewing experience. And I think they affect you more in the moment, whereas themes will the best sort of moment you can have with a theme is sort of an aha moment. Though of course you can get them in a viewing experience, but not all after the fact.
Yeah, I mean,
just like repeated symbols
help a lot as well.
Yeah. Another great Kyle Entertainment talking point that rewatches are always better than the first viewing. I love you, Jockey Bacon. Now,
when they have good themes, at least.
True. No, when you get to see the great foreshadowing. How about that one?
Foreshadowing is right.
I was watching Challenges recently, guys. I don't know if I've told everybody about this yet.
But
there's a symbol with like with Zendaya's character where towards the back end of the movie, when it became like a great 5-star movie, the first one in 20 years in the Kyle Entertainment canon, it was like her knee is like representative of her having to end her career in tennis or whatever. And there's like a moment where her husband like kisses her knee incidentally when it's like an intimacy scene, and it's just like it's like a soft theme. Like now it is kind of charged into a larger theme, but that in that moment, I did the fucking, oh my god, this is so great. I was like freaking out because I recognized in the moment. So there are things like that where it's I don't know. It's even like I feel like there's like a Thanos moment when he dies in the beginning of Endgame. Spoiler, the real Thanos before they bring up that fake boring one at the end. True. Where he might just be he reiterates a line of dialogue or something, or there was something there where I remember having that experience in the theater too. But there are a lot of, I don't know, there's theme encompasses too much stuff. Like in the core themes and changing context in Attack on Titan video. Now, Mia, I'm assuming you're not in love with this video as much as I am, and EliteAri knows it off by heart, etc. Have you ever watched this video of mine?
I think I did. I don't remember.
Oh my god. Well, I'll reiterate the point anyway. The point is just it's not really core themes and changing. It's like core ideas and changing context in Attack on Titan. And themes just means ideas in that video. And for a long time, the title of that video was core ideas and changing context in Attack on Titan, but then I changed it because it sounded cooler. It's like at the beginning they do the salute and you're like, man, it's just humanity fighting against the Titans. And then at the end, oh no, the salute is evil and nationalistic and terrible, and we're doing terrorism with it and stuff like that, and this is bad. It's like, oh, with time, the idea that was good at the beginning, we have now learned can be used for bad, and maybe we should think before we do these things at the beginning without context, etc., etc. So that's like it's not really theme, but you could call it a theme. Like my video isn't like deducted points because I used the word theme wrong because I didn't even really do it. But theme just means too many things, and we gotta. I feel like in these contexts we got to be more specific or something like that, because there is like the theme of live is both in Fire Punch almost. It is like the soft theme of like it is a reiterative thing that Agni hears and powers up, or it motivates him to not die. But it's also like I feel like the only joke in this portion, and it's something that I alluded to earlier, is the meta theme of like most stories, and especially stories like Fire Punch, end up just being don't kill yourself, just keep trying to fight to live, and like reducing it down to just the fist bump live, and it's literally just the characters telling him to live over and over. It's kind of like funny and reductive, but it still gets the point across, and it's like clever. It's like Berserk or Evangelion or any of these things. So a lot of the times, to complicate it even more, things can be both soft things and hard themes. So take it away, Mia. That's just.
I think what you're describing is what I would maybe consider a motif. The repetition.
There are certainly different words. Like there's another one besides motif too. I can't remember it.
Thread.
But yeah, in English class they would call things different things too, and like a morals is like how people would talk about messages in like
the moral of the story.
Yeah, and like we sort of use that as a substitute for theme too. But yeah, it probably would be better to just call the soft themes always motifs and the messages morals, and then we get rid of the word thematic altogether. This is great.
I think you are right though that it's kind of muddy. Like what it. I mean, it doesn't have to be hard to find. You know, we're just kind of identifying patterns in writing and what works, what doesn't. But when I say themes, I'm definitely leaning more towards what you're calling a hard theme. But what with this this split between soft and hard themes, how do you compare them? Do you value one more than the other, or are you just stating that there's a difference?
Well, to start with the EliteAri point is like, well, you sort of it's completely case dependent on which one, and it's not like they're one's higher than the other. But then there's a more interesting conversation, you know, because it's about me of what one do I usually value more. To even think about it, I don't know. Because there is the Vinland Saga example where it's a hard theme and it's very interesting. And then I can't even really think of ways in which soft themes have affected me so much. But even like reiterative pieces of music can also almost be a soft theme. And if you're paying attention to the music, which sometimes I don't, famously in the Vinland Saga anime example. But like it could just be like a piece of music and a repeated frame, and it's like, and it's shown throughout the movie when the character's thinking of something, and then at the end you finally realize what that is, and then it recontextualizes it, and then does that. So I just really don't know. I can't make a decision. We'll tally it up. I'll think about it more. I'll report back or something.
Well, I think those motifs, soft themes, I think those only really work when there is a hard theme in the background that it's playing into. Like with your Attack on Titan example, with how the salute has changed over time.
The funny thing is that I think Attack on Titan is a terrible example of that, because I think Attack on Titan has no hard theme. I think that's like the big problem with it. I think it has no well, at least it bumbles its theme towards the end.
Yeah, it does bumble.
Like, all we have is the soft theme. Now, this is something I've come over to recently. If you had said that to me about 3 years ago, not Miller, my goodness, and you said Attack on Titan bumbled its hard theme, I would have raged out. But
it totally
also
did.
I haven't actually reread it.
Totally agree with that.
I think a lot of people agree with that for Attack on Titan.
It comes to its themes later. It kind of recontextualizes itself and kind of makes up a new theme that changes the context of what came before. Just like going into the whole war thing. You could definitely say that Attack on Titan was about that in a lot of ways, like about violence, but it's more like the recontextualization of it and introducing conflict between nations and stuff like that is definitely, I don't think it's an afterthought, but it's definitely meant to change how you look at what came before. Thought. Yeah, that's an afterthought. But I don't know.
No,
so my point, though.
The later thought is like towards the end when you're coming.
Oh yes. Okay, yeah. But my point I'm getting at there with the salute is the fact that the salute has changed only really means something because there is a hard theme in the background about imperialism, about being radicalized to violence, to war.
I don't know if I agree though, because I think the theme in and of itself has like fandom significance. So to even change the thought there is like a powerful, interesting moment, regardless of the harder theme. I do think they can be independent. I don't know.
But I feel like that in itself is kind of part of the harder theme. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe again, it's the muddiness.
Are we going to get to the point where all soft themes and hard themes are actually not soft and hard themes, but they're all just themes again? Because I'm pretty sure we could have talked into that.
I do think we're kind of wrapping back around to it. Well, go ahead.
Kyle, when was the last thing that when you like experienced you kind of was like, what is this story actually saying? Like, what is it talking about?
See, I think and it's almost purposeful. I think I've trained myself not to care. Like, it's not really like I'm so internally subjectivity fueled just by arguments I've had on online and stuff, to the point where I'm like, where I don't think about that at all going in. I'm like, whatever I like about this, I like about this, and it is equally as valuable. Like, whatever it has to say it doesn't affect my likability of it. Now, that being said, it can be interesting. Like, even things I've done recently, like Heavenly Delusion. Honestly, I don't know. Like, they seem to be doing like the rejects of society are actually the powerful ones, which like every anime does. And then like I feel like that's like, oh, what we're saying in Heavenly Delusion. But then I had a moment like way later where I'm like, is Heavenly Delusion actually about gender? And that was like way more interesting. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then even something like more lighthearted that I'm reading now, like Zombie 100. The theme is pretty evident there from the beginning of like, you should use your time wisely. You don't have to do the things society wants you to do, like get a shitty job. You can actually live life to the fullest, even if you're in a zombie apocalypse. Like, I sort of get the theme, but I like Zombie 100 because it's like funny and the characters are cool.
Because okay, so like it's kind of bring it back. Like I feel like in my experience, I'm almost the opposite because my whole like upbringing is about thinking how.
Unlike you, I'm about thinking.
Thinking how media, what they are trying to say. Like I think it's because we were more like I grew up in a religious household where like what we do, we go to church, and then lunchtime we talk about the sermon and we'd say what do you think about that, right? And brilliant. Every single time we'd go in and watch a movie as a family. The first thing my dad would say in the car, coming back from the cinema, kind of things like, yeah, well, what was that movie saying? Like, what was the message? Like what does it tell us? And do we agree with that message? Do we not? Like, how do we feel about that? Like, and I wouldn't say my dad's like a artsy guy at all. Like, but it's just an interesting way I actually in one of my great videos, which is my Legend of Korra one. I actually can't remember its name. I actually can't remember the name of it. What is it called? Anyway, but yeah, I kind of talk about like there's an enjoyment with a piece of media with trying to figure out what the figuring out like what the media is saying in general, but then what also it shows about me personally. And I think we all agree with this. We like media because like our reaction to it.
It's actually
tells us something more about what ourselves as people. But I also think it's too easy to go down that shoot. Sometimes it's sometimes fun to be like, yeah, actually, what is like when I was coming to the end of Mushoku Tensei, I'm just like, actually, yeah, what is it trying to say here? What is like at the end of all of this? What is the message? And the message is abundantly clear. And I thought that's like awesome. Like I was like, okay, yeah, that I was getting there, and I'm pretty sure I got it, but I just needed a bit more clarification, and the ending gave that, and that's why it was really satisfying. But like Attack on Titan, on the other hand, I'm like a bit confused because it did both. It was like. Do you want to go? Do you want to go left or right? It's like I'll go down the middle, and then everybody's like, "I'm confused." Like you thanked him for the genocide, yada yada yada, but then also Eren's not cool, and like it tried to eat like two pieces of cake. It felt like. I think for me that was like the crescendo was like offbeat by like a half a beat, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I just think I was totally like that. Like exactly how you described it like 3 years ago. So I like in most of my videos are theme videos, right? Like all of the later Attack on Titan ones, that's what it means to be a scout or whatever, or all that stuff. So yeah, whatever, it's okay. But that has changed more recently. Like the Rhaenyra video I did was just about how they acted good, and I was like experimenting on how do you even like portray that in a video. And there was a hard shift where I realized that at some point. I think it was when I was watching Boardwalk Empire for the first time, where I was like so much of this show is that the like accents are so good and the dialogue is so good. But how do I make a video? The Boardwalk Empire is a terrible example for this, because at the end the theme becomes incredibly obvious, and like the ending is so good that it is like all thematic towards the end. And I would say that was like a thing where I was like, oh, this is like elevated this to like fuck The Sopranos. It's third in the trilogy.
Yeah. I would say that's the same thing with The Wire, where there's like, I mean, in my video, when there's like this aesthetic of like the most honest and genuine dialogue where it feels really real, but it's still perfect speech, right? But it's like,
yeah,
it feels so natural and it's enchanting in a weird way, and you just, for whatever reason, like, it's not flashy. It doesn't do, the cinematography is very bland, and like, because it's almost like someone's filming with their iPhone. And like just like around the corner, yeah, and it's like, and there was something about that that's like enchanting. They just made, and it had a way with words, and yeah, there's the aesthetic, but then there's also just like, there's so much more like to all these things that then just build on top, right? But it's tough.
Yeah.
What was okay? What okay?
Go ahead.
So to round maybe to take this back off, but what, considering I was saying that we all kind of watch stuff to kind of learn something about ourselves by our reaction to it. Has Fire Punch made you learn anything about yourself?
Like massive, like, no, I don't know. About myself, I don't know, but Fire Punch is like, I think it's like I think it ruined media for me for like a year and a half, and I talked about it a lot at the time, where I was like, nothing will ever be this clever to me, and like nothing will ever be, and I'm also talking about the meta stuff with Togata and towards the beginning, like and I think everybody disagrees with me on this point, but the idea of making it like terrible for like 4 chapters and then making it really good in subverting all the things it did in those first 4 chapters is like an idea that's like blown my mind, and I think the thing that always drew me to Fujimoto stuff was the conceptual things like that. Like I remember because I watched like the content guys, Jockey Bacon, of course you understand what I'm talking about here. Talk about all of that's what we're talking about. I listened to them talk about like I think 75% of Chainsaw Man and like spoil it all before I read it. And like the point that made me want to read it was when they got to the thing where it's like, oh, to attack, the dude flicks from outside of the page and it like hits them.
Oh yeah,
and that was like, oh my god, that's like genius. Because I love like form stuff like that. I really do just like meta, like
novelty.
Yeah. I don't like that word. Stop making me say it, Jockey Bacon.
Sorry.
Because there's like a few pieces like that throughout my life where I was like, oh, this like changes everything. Like, I will always like Fire Punch is something I imagined existing before it existed. Where I was like, what if you just went all the way with the meta stuff like at the beginning? And like and the problem with it is that you can't really do like. And I think this is evident in this portion of Fire Punch where it's like, well, when you draw back and then you try to do like a real story, it kind of does feel like a hodgepodge in a sense. And it's almost similar to the Attack on Titan thing where towards the end you're like, well, it feels like we've lost our way at some point and we changed directions but I still like the core thing there is so good. That it's like so worth it. Because I still would give Attack on Titan a 10 and I would still give Fire Punch a 10. But Portrait of a Lady on Fire was another thing like that, but it was more about perception than the meta stuff. Though obviously whenever you talk about perception and you're watching a movie, like obviously it becomes almost inherently meta. Where Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Now, Bacon, I never made you watch this movie. EliteAri seen it, but he didn't like it at all. So
yeah.
Have you seen it? No, right?
No, I watched your video on it.
Okay. Oh, wait, that Patreon exclusive video that was just for Jockey Bacon. He watched it. This is great.
Of course.
I'm pretty sure that video is terrible. But Portrait of the Lady on Fire is basically about like looking at somebody else, and then there's like the turn in the middle of the movie where it's revealed like the character we've been seeing and watching through, the other character's been watching them, and there's like this big moment in the middle, and it's like a big scene that everybody goes off on about. But of that sort of looking and then looking back, yeah, and it's sort of like like that's like a piece of like, oh, like it's sort of about characters and positioning and stuff like that. And it sort of changed my perception. But yeah, after I read Fire Punch the first time, it was not until like challenges, I think, like literally this week, where I watched something and gave it a perfect score. Like Polite Society, which is a movie, got really close. But outside of Fire Punch, like it legitimately ruined everything for me, I think. And I was like, oh, what is like, how do I go back to a normal piece of media after this and be impressed? Like this is the single most impressive thing I think I've ever read. But there's also another thing about Fujimoto and sort of my arrogance in writing is like, obviously I intend one day I'm going to write the greatest story of all time. I've got it all laid out in my head. You know, it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be terrific.
Now.
And What do you say?
Start it now.
Oh, don't worry. There's like a draft thing that I've had for like 3 years, but I never work on it, so don't worry. Because when I think of something like Berserk, I'm like, I can do better than Berserk. Berserk, fucking whatever. I see all the things wrong with Berserk, and I would just do them good. And like things like that, like normal stories. But then when you read stuff that Fujimoto does, it's like in a complete other like lane, and not even like in terms of quality of just like I cannot make something like this. Like even though I have very similar, interesting like meta stuff, like whatever I make will be like stupidly meta in a way that tries to do it like this. But just like his ideas and his concepts, there's just like a world in which I feel like it's like a creative genius thing where it's like I can't do what he does. Whereas like obviously I can't draw like Miro or something. I'm not gonna make a manga out here. I can't draw for shit. But it's like in terms of like the thing I value about Berserk most of all, which is like the story and the characters, it's like Miro, what a piece of shit. I got him. Who's dead and who's not, buddy? But with Fujimoto, it's just like it just isn't a different stratosphere, and that has to do with the conception of like Fire Punch is like this impressive thing that I will carry with me till Kingdom Come, and because that it's very like it's almost like a personal thing that necessitates it being sort of a 10 to me. But Bacon, your original question was like something about something, right?
What did Fire Punch make you realize about yourself?
Yes, but and to do with the personal thing is like I think every piece of media sort of like truly it is like an independent experience, I think. And your own experience. And I also feel like that's the only experience. Now, obviously, you can like project that experience to try to have a wider cultural experience. But I guess this goes into more silly philosophical ideas that I probably don't entirely understand about like you can't ever properly portray what you're thinking or feeling to somebody else, given the limitations of how we can communicate just through words and stuff. Like you can't perfectly beam a feeling into somebody else to be like, oh, I feel like this way. And even if two people do have like identical reactions to a piece of media, which I would think is probably impossible because everything that goes into your life experience brings you to the moment in which you consume the piece of media, and therefore that would make, and as long as everybody is different like that, they would have at least slightly different things. But even in a theoretical world where you both do have the exact same thing, it probably would be very easy to communicate that you had the same thing, but you will never exactly know that you had the same thing because you can't beam the stupid thought into their head. That's all philosophy thing. Jockey Bacon knows about it, you know. So everything is a personal experience. Did I learn much about Fire Punch? I guess my point and what I was getting at the beginning was that it didn't really make me reflect on anything like life related, like thematically. Like I'm not gonna, when I'm down on my luck, I'm not gonna be like, well, Agni, he got through it, so I gotta live or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is more so in the meta sense of like story wise, like this is like a profound personal experience, I guess. Now somebody else goddamn talk.
I think I agree with you, not as not as strongly like impacted by it as you were, but I didn't feel like I learned anything about myself as much as I think I think differently about writing, especially just based on our discussion too and the way you talk about it, Kyle. It's very interesting. It just makes me think about how I perceive media, really. And that's almost the point too. That's why Fujimoto's kind of a fucking genius, because he's way ahead of us on all this.
Don't let me infest you. You'll turn out like EliteAri. Just parroting everything I say he is.
I think it's interesting though, because the way you talk about the themes, especially with Fire Punch, I think it's so interesting looking at the theater scene again. And I think Fujimoto agrees with you. But he does it in the funny Fujimoto way that we've been talking about with Fire Punch, where he makes fun of it and then also does it when it comes to themes and having a hard theme and having something to say. Because the theater scene starts with him saying, well, thinking to himself, due to the film being damaged, the colors were monochrome, there was no sound. Clearly, this is a meta thing. It's black and white, no sound. It's the manga. I have no idea what it was about or why it was made, but there was one thing that I understand. A man burning with flames seemed to be the main character. The movie was focused on him alone. Every once in a while, he would fight someone, kill, and be killed himself, and then repeat the process. It was all so extreme, and I didn't understand any of it, but the man continued to burn throughout the movie. Before I knew it, I found myself with a clenched fist. I think it's so interesting that Fujimoto is almost saying there is no theme, there's nothing here, it's just absurd, I don't understand any of it, but that is the theme. It's so the perception of reading it, us reading it, of Sun here watching it, that is the theme, his emotional reaction to it, the clenched fist. And I think that aligns so well with what you are saying and how you took this. It's more about how you responded to what was happening on the screen, how you were perceiving it, and that's kind of the point. So what do you have to say about that?
I kind of see that scene differently, actually, because I think, actually, firstly, I think something I just pieced together is Togata does use that verbiage at some point where he's like, got it right, my goodness. The clenched fist thing, he brings that up early on where he's like, when I watch movies, like the best movies are when you find yourself with a clenched fist or something. So I think that's a callback, but I've never picked that up.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, this moment I think is more. Now I think I do like that interpretation, but that's not what I thought about at all when I saw this scene. I thought this was like, and there is a thing I've noticed throughout Fire Punch. There's a few moments like this where I feel like it's almost an insecurity, like getting ahead of the criticism thing, where I feel like, and this has been made true, and I think it's almost a worthy insecurity from Fujimoto here, is sort of like, a lot of people, when they talk about Fire Punch, are just like, well, it was crazy, and he was on fire, and a lot of crazy shit happened, and it was sad, and face meme. And I think it's sort of like he understands that it's a little esoterical and like meta, and that's not always people's thing, and like normal people, unless you're like a mediophile, you probably won't like it. That's why I had the big thing at the beginning. I even embodied this insecurity at the beginning where I was prepared for people to stop the read through at certain points because they just didn't like Fire Punch. But there are other moments like this. So that is how I read the scene of sort of like Fujimoto shitting on his own work. Where he's like, oh, yeah, you know, I know you guys probably aren't thinking this means anything or anything like that. But there's also a whole nother thing about, like, a lot of things people say about art is like, oh, you don't have to be, like, media literate or whatever, or artistically literate. And I feel like people talk about this when they talk about paintings a lot of the time. It's not, like, about, and this is what artists usually use to, like, criticize critics and stuff like that for. It's like, it's not about breaking it down into its individual elements and analyzing how it works. It's about looking at the painting and feeling something. And I feel like that's kind of embodied here in this scene of like, Agni really doesn't get it and he doesn't understand how movies work, and you know, it's black and white and there's no audio and stuff, but it didn't make him feel something. Like he had a clenched fist. He was on the edge of his seat, proverbially, through the whole thing. So I actually didn't take it the way you took it. I had a different one, and then I made up another interpretation there. So I don't know. Who knows? What a scene. Anything to say about that, Mia?
I think I didn't expect you to take it that way either. I kind of think it's, if you're aligned with Fujimoto, and in a funny way, you aren't thinking about it that way. Even though I feel like that's also the point he was kind of making. It's I don't know how to put it, but I feel like I wasn't expecting you to because your point was that there kind of isn't a hard theme. It's this story is a lot more about what you were calling soft themes, and well, kinda. You didn't really say that,
I think there is a hard theme. I don't even remember how I got
just that it doesn't matter as much.
It was about like Fire Punch.
That it matters. What matters more to the story is the moment to moment of reading it, and just
that's just
how
what I
you're
like
feeling about it.
I definitely think that, like, because the live thing is the general, like, don't kill yourself theme. But it is more like, it is the making fun of it and still doing it thing, I think. Like, it's like the most basic, like, live, idiot. But it's still like, live, idiot. Killing yourself isn't going to help anything. So I see that. Now, this is actually, wait, Mia, did you have things to say? Because I'm going to transition into making EliteAri say something if you are.
No, go ahead.
Okay, because there is because me and EliteAri agree on a lot of this, but he really doesn't like when I bring up Fujimoto in any sense, because EliteAri, now correct me if I'm wrong, EliteAri is very big on, because I, perceivably, and very big on the author is dead stuff. But EliteAri almost doesn't even care about that. He just doesn't like speculating about author identity or anything like that because you don't know what the author's thinking, etc. So EliteAri, were you rolling your eyes when I'm bringing up Fujimoto stuff?
So well, not really. Kind of. I haven't. I kind of feel that, and I'm like, oh,
He's
that's kind of
used to it at this
cringe.
point.
No,
He's given
because
up.
I do agree with you where Fujimoto is the exception for me. A lot of the time when I'm talking about his works, I do think about him as a person, and I don't know anything about him. I think to make claims,
He
that
does
you
have this
use
cult of
things,
personality, even though we don't know anything about
yeah,
him.
well, I've never heard him speak. I've never even seen a picture of him. I've seen like this meme thing of him jumping over a chair, but I don't even know if
There's
that's
like
him or
the fake
not.
video that might not even be
Yeah,
him.
exactly.
And there's the little funny notes at the end of the things where it's like the funny one at the end of Fire Punch is that the last one is, this is a work of fiction. It's like, well, thank you, Fujimoto.
Wow, I didn't even get to see those.
I thought it was real for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're reading on the shitty Shonen Jump app.
Yep.
Embarrassing.
They have a picture of him at the end of the volumes.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
I gotta look that up.
They're always good bitches.
Anyway,
I almost think the
Fujimoto is
reason
great.
that I think the reason that he's kind of an exception is almost because it feels like everything I've read from him is just a total stream of consciousness. It feels like he's just directly putting his thought process onto the paper, and you kind of can't. I feel like you can't escape and separate it from him.
I feel like it's like a perception of that, but it's not that, and that's like what's most impressive to me. It's like clearly there has to be a concept here and a thinking out process, and he still infects it with like, this feels like it's just like every idea is like unrelated to the last, and it's just like crazy. But then when you see it, there is like some sort of what do you call it? Semblance to the madness. I'm thinking of semblance of sanity. What do you call it? Something to the madness. There's a saying.
Method to the madness.
Method to the madness. That's the one. But I also I think he's like the exception for us. But I feel like every author, especially every popular author, like Hideaki Anno is like every Evangelion video is going to talk about how they love the great Hideaki Anno and they just know him personally, and that like this Shinji scene is directly because Hideaki Anno said he was depressed one time, and it's like infects every Ava video and makes them all terrible, where they're all like mind reading the author about how Anno has this one quote about how he like, or there's like a one documentary scene where it's him and his family and his father doesn't speak to him. Well, like, not that they're not speaking, but at like the dinner table, they don't speak to each other and they seem cold, and everybody's like, and that's why Shinji's father, and it's just like an over reading of like completely like nonsense where it's like they just want to make a one-to-one thing. Isayama is like that too, where we're digging through his like tweets or his maybe not tweets. Nobody actually knows about whether or not he was denying Japanese war crimes or whatever, and whether or not he's gonna the theme of the story is gonna be pro-fascist or whatever. And it's like a lot of speculating about things we really don't know much about. And Fujimoto is almost the apex of this, but everybody sort of understands like the narrative voice in his work is so strong that it makes it almost, you have to make assumptions. And the way, because his works are so like referential in a lot of senses, I feel like a lot of people relate to him more about like, oh, he's seen all these movies, I've seen all these movies. He's saying like, he's just like me for real. But also he's like a crazy wacky genius, and it sort of lives.
It goes back to what we were talking about last time, where I said like he feels very raw, in all his works.
Yeah,
like it feels personal despite not knowing anything about him. I would say it's interesting to see like.
But I think all that's fake. I think it is just like a perception thing. Like, not that he's not that way. It's just that we don't know he's that way, and it's just something you sort of read into the work. Like, I don't think there's any basis for any of this besides like assumptions you can make. Like, if you met Fujimoto, I assume he's like a normal person. Like, he's not this wacky guy.
The thing is, right, from my own experience of writing, and people do it differently, right? So I don't have to, like, I just find the most compelling characters I write has an element of that character, has an element of me in that character. Because the understanding and depth I can give to a character, I can make that, like, a lot higher just because like I understand it better intrinsically, if that makes sense.
Oh my god, me and EliteAri in an argument about this in Arcane, I think, about whether or not you could. Oh, this was a super old one. I'm bringing this up like we just had it, but it was one of the ones I rewatched where we had an argument about whether or not there's like there's a scene in season 1 of Arcane where Silco's like talking about how he was drowning this time, and I was like, how the fuck does this writer know what it feels like to drown? And we were sort of like laughing, and then EliteAri got mad at me, and he was like, oh, first of all, he agreed with me, but then I went too far, and he got mad at me because he was giggling with me, EliteAri. You know, back in those times, he was well trained. He respected me more. Now he's sick of my shit. So and then I was like,
it's the dumbest argument.
If you have an actual near death, no, because I brought up like, oh, we probably get
say the argument. Yeah,
like, shut up, EliteAri.
Go ahead, do it.
Goddamn idiot! You've spoken enough in this goddamn thing. I haven't spoken enough. The I was like, oh, the reason why there's probably like a relatively realistic depictions of like what it feels like to kill somebody or to die in media is because like a lot of old-timey writers or like Tolkien or whatever was in World War I and all these authors from back in the olden days, they were probably actually killing people, fighting in wars and stuff. So then we just like copy their like ideas of trauma and stuff, and that's how we get to Silco having a monologue about drowning, and like he's like, and they filled up my lungs and I was sinking, and you know and then I had a moment where I was like, I must fight, and I brought my mouth up to the surface, and I was like, the point about how like you sort of had like basically we got into an argument about your descriptive experiences help you write descriptively real scenes better, and EliteAri was like, no, obviously you could fake it, and then we got in a whole argument about how I would never write a scene that tried to like be about how we're in snow or something, because I've never been in snow and I've never been that cold, and EliteAri was like, obviously you could write a scene where you accurately portray snow,
we can't
and I'm like,
convey
obviously
things
not,
through
you fucking
words?
moron.
Like we can understand we weren't born like knowing all concepts in the world, right? Oh my god, whatever.
Bacon, yell at him, you were just agreeing with me, tell him he's an idiot.
Go ahead, Bacon.
Bacon, say these words. Say, Kyle Entertainment cannot write a snow scene.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, could Kyle write? Kyle, can you actually write a snow scene?
It was really cold, and I bundled up in my blanket next to the warm fire, and for a second, the cold disappeared in my mind. Yeah, it's a bunch of ancillary bullshit that doesn't evoke anything in the heart.
Kyle,
like
have you ever picked up a physical volume?
Practice.
Oh my god, never mind. You know what? Go ahead.
No, Carl. I actually want you to write like could you write a short story of like 2 pages long about like and snow being the core, like one of the core things about it. So
now, even if I could, I would just say, well, I'm a writing genius. Of course, I could do it. But the point isn't even that. Like, obviously, you can do it, and you can pass it off as like not people aren't going to be like, well, this is wrong. Though you could get something pretty wrong just because you don't have a personal experience with it. It's just that like, oh, it's more interesting if it's from an actual personal experience, or you would get more like little details that people might relate to and go, haha. But also, this is a whole perception thing, and it actually doesn't really matter because even if like most people haven't drowned, so you can pass it off to most people that this is how you would drown, and then nobody would ever be the wiser. It's sort of like when they get these experts to react to shit in shows, and they're like, well, you know, in this Mad Men scene, this isn't actually how you would pitch a advertisement to a client. You see, there wouldn't be all this drinking and stuff like that, where it's like, well, maybe if you're an advertiser, or a better example is like if you're a doctor watching a doctor drama and you're like, well, this isn't very realistic, and like for that it might ruin it for you forever, but to the masses, like we're like, it looks like a fucking hospital to me. So it's sort of that difference. Like obviously you can do it, and also, you know, when I was like 13 or something, I got a short story published, so you know, I've already written a short story. Pretty cool, huh?
Are you not going to share it with us?
I have no idea where it is. I know I got a letter back that it was published because I did it through my high school, and I never saw the book. So,
oh wow!
If somebody can help me find it, I remember it was about rabbits, and they were running away from a wolf, and there were like 3 rabbits, and 2 of them died, and then 1 rabbit survived. I have never seen a rabbit, nor have I seen a wolf.
How could you write that?
Yeah, I don't know how you.
I probably didn't write it very good. It's pretty simple.
I do think there was a good idea in there about how like most of these authors have never actually killed someone, and it's all kind of like a collective human experience being passed down through interpretations of it. I like that idea. I think you're going. I'm like 100% with the way you described how Ari was thinking about it. Just going too far with it, but it's a good idea.
I do think though, like, okay, I'm talking about The Wire again, but they like all the actors on that show. Well, like most of the actors were like definitely like the standards are from Baltimore. Lots of them, like it's like that's why you have a writing room so you can have so many writing experiences.
Yeah,
right?
it's like why you want women writers or whatever to write female characters and shit like that.
Yeah, right. Or you just want to listen to people and hear their experience and use that to then talk about your own, right? So like, I'm not saying it's impossible. I just know when I've written characters I feel compelled to write. And I actually know that's not always true because I know that for some other people I've written with, they don't take that approach. So like there's sometimes they find that, here's something here's an archetype of a person I've met in real life, and I want to make that into a character. Sometimes do that.
There's just the more funny thing with what I was originally trying to portray 3 years ago when we had this discussion with EliteAri was that it's just funny that at some I guess I would just be too insecure to write I would still do it, but it would be like, man, I just wrote that dying scene. What if somebody's just like, well, this is stupid as fuck. Like how big a balls do you have to be like the first person in fiction that's going to do I just got stabbed with a lance and I'm bleeding out scene? Like, where do those ideas come from? That's interesting. And stuff like that. Obviously you can do it, but that's okay. Anyway, I wanted EliteAri to talk about themes or something before, and he gave us 2 words. Can you believe that?
I don't believe it.
All right, yeah, okay.
Remember? You were talking about themes.
Was I? Wait, what was I saying? I don't remember.
No, I don't even remember.
We were talking more about
it was the author stuff.
Author. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I said
there was one thing that you said about.
It's finished.
There's one thing I think you said, Kyle, about why Fujimoto specifically would kind of read more about him, I guess, by trying to interpret his work. I think one point you made that I kind of latched onto was that it's kind of related to the meta stuff for you. And I think that's a really good point because I think by being so meta, he almost invites you to think more about external from the story, think more about him as a real person by making it so meta.
Yeah.
I think he almost kind of asks for it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm gonna throw it back to EliteAri. This is gonna be great. EliteAri, you don't really care about any of the meta Fujimoto stuff, right? But you were saying you still have this sort of reading into him stuff. So is that true? Do you think what Wait,
what do you mean?
Tracks?
Wait, what do you mean by I don't care?
Well, let's start at the beginning. EliteAri, do you care about any of the meta shit in Fujimoto stuff? Do you even agree that it exists? I feel like you said it.
What do you mean by meta? That's the question.
I don't know. The shit I always talk about.
Yeah, I think I really like that usually.
Okay, well, never mind.
I like EliteAri. EliteAri is the most meta thing ever, where it breaks the fourth wall 4 times.
Fire Punch ripoff. That's what it is. It's fucking sucks.
It's like Fire Punch, but good throughout the whole thing. It's great. EliteAri is the
I guess you're splitting the references to media versus meta narrative of the story.
Hard and soft meta. Let's go. More definitions.
Low key, you're actually so
but
right.
That is true, right? Because references are soft meta, and hard meta would be making the first 2 chapters terrible on purpose, which EliteAri obviously doesn't
they're both hard meta.
EliteAri only believes in hard meta. There we go.
I do, yeah.
But so do you think Fujimoto through his meta invites this type of speculation? EliteAri, do you agree with Mia then?
I don't think I'm following it. Let's keep going. I don't know what you're talking about.
True. I think we just said EliteAri agrees with you, Mia. And I think, yes, true, good. That's why. Anyway, we've been talking about themes for about an hour, I think. Was there anything about unless we have more to say about themes, I might be cutting you off.
I think we talked less about Fire Punch in this.
Yeah, exactly.
We talked about transness for about this much last time, so.
That's true.
But that was a bit more tied to Fire Punch, I feel like.
The meta is tied to Fire Punch, it's even more so. Do we have anything else to say particularly about Fire Punch, or are we wrapping things up soon? I guess we didn't talk specifically about the ending. Does anybody have anywhere they want to go? Because that's basically all my notes. I just have like the sisters into the time skip, into Luna getting kidnapped, into the final fight, into bigger time skip. I thought the final fight was kind of cool. I remember thinking it was boring, but him like marching through the woods and killing all those guys, the last guy like praying and thinking it's going to save him, and he just puts his little hand, his flame hand on his head was cool. The one ice guy who everybody hated because they thought he was the Ice Witch, but then Agni chopped off his head and threw it at him. Oh, and then one time he cut off his face to look like a crazy fire punch. That was pretty cool. Into the bigger time skip. That was the last one. So yeah, I think it's all my notes. So if anybody's got anything,
the group that they formed to go raid the place where Agni was living with the daughters of Doma or whatever, that they were called the Avengers, and I wrote a note. Oh my god, maybe the X-Men references were real, because that was so on the nose to call them the Avengers that just
in the same chapter that that the Great X3 reference happens. I'm pretty sure there's a Spider-Man reference in that chapter. So anyway, I was correct on all that. You know, EliteAri's silence is deafening.
I did not.
I just want to say, because I won't remember, the lead Avenger spoke at the end. That was crazy, huh? He could speak the whole time. The sword guy, I
completely forgot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's like a thing where I think Togata says to him, "Can you just not speak, or are you just choosing to shut up?" And then she calls him like a moron or something while he's flipping her off and stuff.
There's a soft theme there about speaking.
Maybe speak only when a perception of not speaking is like cool and stuff. Speaking of arcane, not speaking makes you a good character. Crazy. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, that was cool. Anyway, but Mia, you were in the middle of something.
I was gonna say I said I was gonna watch X3 and I did not have time to.
Oh,
but I think honestly, low key, that Avengers thing, that kind of made me rethink why you were thinking that way. And even if it wasn't
being exactly the same scene,
you'll have to send me the exact scene at the very least so I can see what you mean. But I guess the point I was making is that it's so explicit with the Avengers thing, it almost makes me rethink how explicit some of the references may have been that I thought were just kind of
like the Great Batman.
Well, I mean that one. Come on. Okay, yeah, maybe that's been on the nose the whole time. Maybe I'm just wrong.
And therefore, the X-Men one wasn't so on the nose, so it was wrong, and you now agree with EliteAri.
True. I think I was always agreeing with EliteAri.
No, nobody agrees with EliteAri. Don't be silly.
No, I've never not agreed with EliteAri.
Oh yeah, so you think Mushoku Tensei is good?
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, baby.
Now, I guess the towards the end where Flash, there's a wheat field. There's a great happiness everywhere, except there's not, because there's two rival factions and stuff.
I think it was an Elden Ring reference.
True.
Yes, it wasn't a Berserk reference. I don't want to hear that again, like we went through last time. Okay.
It was a Vinland Saga reference.
It was.
Oh, it was that I did think about Vinland Saga. It was pretty cool when he came out and the wheat field was there. It was all bright. That shitty Thor's shot from the anime came to mind. It's in the Without Love thingy. Remember when I put that in my video recently?
Yeah, crazy.
The anime OSTs top 30 coming soon. Next time EliteAri streams. And then there's a whole thingy thing, and Neneto is old and she's dying and she's got a whole family and stuff. And then seemingly they probably do think, Agni is given a pill where he can actually kill himself, and when faced with a hard, not a soft kill yourself method, he doesn't seemingly choose to do it. Because he never actually takes the pill, unless he did and it didn't work or something. That would be funny. It was just a crazy prank by this pretty young lady. And he ends up, the Earth gets destroyed, and Luna, we see Luna. Judah got her memories back towards the end. Wasn't that crazy? We killed Sun by him beating up Agni. Sun was like super powered and stuff. He had zap powers.
I did think Sun was cool. It was fun to see him be kind of
the art and the destruction was cool as well.
He totally beat Agni, totally destroyed him in the power scaling. But then Agni, he had a tiny little bit of flame left, and he put it on his little calf there. And poor Sun, he was begging for the great Agni to save him and stuff, but he wasn't gonna. And then Agni lost his memories again. Can you believe that? And then Luna made his head explode, and she was Judah again, and then she decided to become a tree. And then the Earth blowed up, and even though she was miserable, even more miserable for Agni for even more time, eventually they just flew past each other in the universe, and they grabbed hold of each other, and they lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
I liked how the scene where he sets Sun on fire kind of what's the word? It's not doesn't subvert. It doesn't subvert the whole live motif thing. And I like that it's every other time. I don't remember. Was he the one? Was Agni the one thinking I want to live when he fire punched him? Right, that was his thoughts. Yeah, okay. So I think it's interesting. Like, it's always this kind of scene of like the person on fire giving like the fist bump thing. That was at the start. It's always been, I guess, from the start. It's always been the person saying to live, but here it is Agni saying to himself that I want to live. I thought that was cool. I liked that kind of mirroring, I guess, of the
kind of a payoff, right?
Yeah, exactly, of the live motif. And I also liked I guess with the perception thing, this whole Agni gets to this point throughout this section of the story, which is a total I guess understanding of how he can't escape how he's perceived, and he has to fully kind of embrace it. And then with this moment, he gets to be completely reborn, something new. I like that the body of Agni is still kind of there, even though it's not like he is no longer on fire anymore. It's a completely new body. It's a new form, and that means he has kind of fully escaped how he's perceived. He gets to be something, completely different.
Basically a new person.
Yeah. But I think it's also interesting now that I'm thinking about this. I didn't think about it before, but even though he's something new, he can't help but be kind of derivative of Sun. He kind of takes Sun's personality. He's a lot like Sun in the kind of he kind of talks in a very naive, childlike way. He literally takes Sun's name. I think so. He's not like taking the radical Sun.
Yeah, it is kind of a twist because Nideto was like, "Oh, it's gross that you tricked Judah into being Luna, but then she tricked Agni into being Sun afterwards." So it's like a little hypocritical thing. I did think it was part of the Agni personality was in there when he was like, "Oh, he was still really good at lying and like acting." When he was like, "Oh." I can't remember what the specific example was, but I was like, "Oh, that's a bit Agni in there." But yeah, that's probably true to fit with the him acting more like Sun to fit with the Nineto like hypocritical angle.
See, I don't actually quite know what's being said through that though. I'm literally just thinking about that idea now.
I think it's like a selfishness thing, right? Like, oh, people will try to like it's just basically like a mirror to what Agni did of like, well, she really loved Sun. Even towards the end, after Sun was gonna kill her, after she found out he was dead, he was like, "Oh, you took Sun from me" or something. So she was upset. So I think it's like a
it's interesting.
Like a mixed emotion thing. Yeah, because it really doesn't have anything to do with perception, right? Because it's
kind of. I feel like it's almost saying because
it's almost the inverse of the face thing, right? Of like, remember earlier EliteAri brought up that point where it was like
the fake
like
smile,
somebody having the same face is like the
yes,
important thing. Oh, I guess it's kind of the inverse for Nineto, right? Because she's made Sun's personality come to life in Agni rather than Agni just liking that this girl kind of looks like Luna. So maybe it's not a hypocrisy thing. It's actually the opposite.
The way I'm thinking about it right now, it's almost to say because by being reborn, he escapes all of this perception stuff. But I feel like it's almost like Fujimoto saying, even from that blank slate, who we are is kind of just derivative of what we see and what we experience.
Yeah. It's also different, right?
Perception.
Because the lunar Judah, because Fire Punch, a bit of it is like, oh, how you're seen is sort of who you are. There's even a thing of like, you're only perceived once you're seen by others or whatever. And they have like the snow example or whatever. Judah and Luna look the same. So it's like, well, their interaction with the world from like a purely physical looks thing would always be the same. So it's like easier for them to be similar rather than Sun and Agni. Obviously, Sun's like a skinny kid and Agni's like this giant ripped guy. So for him to end up being a little bit more like Agni and not entirely like Sun could be because of that or something. I don't know.
I guess he does kind of go a bit more back to who he was before, like who we saw him to be as a kid, rather than replicating Sun entirely. But it's the fact that Fujimoto chose to have him take Sun's name is so weird
I
to
think
me.
that's it's like the Naneto hypocrisy / not hypocrisy thing, which I think is powerful because it's like, oh, silly, like everybody's kind of same in that sense. And I think it's also for like the false symbol thing to be at the end of like the girl that isn't Luna and the girl that isn't Sun who think they are, or the boy that thinks they're Sun and they're not, and they're like the remnants of humanity and like et cetera, et cetera. But I guess I never even thought of the Sun personality thing. I saw all the Agni elements of like he's still trying to kill himself. He's the lying thing. I was always like, oh, yeah, it's just Agni, like kind of, except a little bit less aware. It's definitely different, but like aspects of it are there. But I don't know.
I think I need to reread the everything post Sun's death. It was interesting. I feel like this. I don't know, man. I feel like everything after, as much as I was like, as I didn't quite like what they did with Sun, I feel like where my distaste really started coming from was everything after the theater scene. As cool as the whole visual of the tree thing was, I thought that was cool. I felt like because all these ideas of the perception theme, I was like honed in on that very very closely, and I felt like the finale was playing into it so nicely, and it felt like as cool as the whole massive time skips and the space tree thing was, I felt like it wasn't really doing anything relevant to Fire Punch.
Theme, right?
It felt like it felt completely separate.
Well, I know. I think it's the living theme, but I think it's almost like a a soft theme and a hard theme of like maybe the perception thing is like the secondary theme, and the main theme is the live thing, and the point at the end is like even when the Earth is exploded, if you have the capability to live, you should still live because even like in a billion years, there is always the possibility, even though you're alone right now floating in space forever, there is the possibility that somebody else will float past. And then you can have sort of some human connection and be better. So it's sort of like a never kill yourself, kids.
That's a good point. Thumbs up I guess message. I just find that theme less compelling.
Yeah, I think so. It is like it's the Berserk theme, I guess. The
struggle on, strugglers, fellow strugglers.
Yeah, that's the
upvote this
thing. I guess it just depends because I probably to somebody, and I actually was thinking about this while I was reading. To somebody who is suicidal, and I don't know if you want to do the whole reading and thing and be like, well, Fujimoto must have been suicidal at some point. That's probably the most powerful message you could ever have, right? Is like, oh, even in space, Judah didn't kill herself. Like, don't kill yourself. So it's almost a different life experience thing, like how themes will sort of, like we all deal with perception. We don't all deal with suicidal ideation, I guess. Because there are quieter moments where I'm not going to be able to remember the moment, but there is just a moment where it's one of the like the sad Agni's trying to kill himself things. And I was just like, man, it's like suicide is like sucks, man. Sad you had to go through that, brother. And it's like there's real life people going through that, brother. It's sad. So yeah, I guess it depends what you want to pinpoint, I guess.
It's kind of interesting the way you frame that, because I'm not.
Because it is
I
less
don't wanna...
authentic in like Berserk, right? Because Berserk is sort of like, oh, miserable stuff happens to you and you've got to go on living with it. Like Guts isn't trying to kill himself ever, like he turns it into rage and stuff. Whereas the Agni one is definitely more sad. And I guess this goes into the stuff I was like talking about, I think in the first one, where I was like, Agni is actually not a power fantasy because it's like he actually is miserable constantly. The way people would argue Guts is when somebody accuses him of being a power fantasy, of like, you wouldn't want to be Guts, brother, but actually, look at them fucking muscles and his cool friends. It's like, yeah, me and Guts, we're the same. Me and Agni, not really the same, unless you're suicidal, I guess. I don't know.
It's interesting because I feel like the live theme is shallow, but it's almost intentionally so. Like it's almost like he's like saying how Fujimoto is saying it's kind of so because Agni asks Luna, like the Judah Luna, because she tells him to keep living, and finally, he's being told to live by somebody who isn't dead a moment later, so he can ask why, and it's just simply because I want you to, because
yeah,
good, and
because it would feel good for me to think that you're gonna live on or whatever. But it's because it's saying it's shallow is like kind of correct because it's like kind of boring and it's kind of redundant, right? But again, it's almost like the most fundamental aspect of life. If you're gonna do a theming thing, like you got to be alive to experience life. So
that's the point, because that's
it's boiling
literally
it down.
It's so much of what media is about, and Fire Punch is an entire joke / analysis about media and how we perceive it, how we're shaped by it.
Yeah.
So I do think he's kind of confronting the simplicity of that message, but he's doing it in the Fujimoto way, like you say.
I feel like
right on that.
Go ahead, Bacon. Go ahead.
No, because he's the GOAT. I was hopping.
Oh, because he's the GOAT. I thought you said because I feel like it would almost sell better if this part was funnier though. Because the sort of the reducing it down to just live is like funny. Especially in sort of the middle part, and it's sort of, but it's always made tragic. Like the Targata thing is really funny. She's like trying to figure out what she should say to him, and she comes around to live. And that's sort of making fun of it, and then we continue on with it afterwards. I don't know. It's almost how seriously are we supposed to take it? Is it like a funny sketch on YouTube where you show up and it's like boiling every story's theme down in 60 seconds, and then it's just like somebody on the ground screaming "live" really funny on the ground? It's like, is that what Fujimoto's doing here? It's like,
it feels like he's doing that,
kind of,
but he's doing it in a way that has substance somehow.
But it's always it's the not cynical thing, which I think is a big part. God, I should make that stupid fucking Chainsaw Man video. Anyway. EliteAri, you loved the ending. Do you want to tell us why?
Oh, true.
It was good. It was like, let me think. What did I like about it? I don't know. It was good.
It was cool. They were in space.
Yeah, it was cool. Space. Yeah, I do like.
You
space.
like hugging?
I do like hugging, and I like cool visuals, and they were in a cinema and stuff. Yeah, it was good.
They were I guess there's everybody.
Sun and Moon. Sun and Luna. We like that. It's like a funny moment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I thought they were going to become the sun and the moon of the new universe.
Maybe they will,
or something. I thought it was going to be something ridiculous. Yeah, I mean,
Ari, did the tree breaking the earth remind you of the Last Jedi where the ship breaks through the massive other ship?
No, it didn't. But that's great. Thanks, Bacon.
It did for me. That's what I thought. I thought that's the Star Wars reference.
That's a soft theme, I think.
Wait, when did this come out?
I think, it's so soft that I think the chapter came out before
2018. It ended.
Oh,
Last Jedi 2018 is when Last Jedi came out.
Yeah.
I don't know, early or late. I'm pretty sure it's like.
I'm sure it's a reference.
Star Wars movies come out.
It is. It's definitely a reference.
Yeah,
I believe it. He was baiting me. Did you see that? I got around his bait just now. Anyway,
As I read my notes here, of how I was reacting to the ending in the moment. I think I was so expecting one last kind of gag, and I didn't. I think I just didn't expect Fujimoto to play this ending so kind of. He really plays it straight. He doesn't. He's doing exactly what he's showing. I don't know how
because
to put
Chainsaw
it.
Man Part 1 ends that way, right? Because it is like the ending point of Chainsaw Man is almost as reduced, where it's like, well, hugs are good and I want a hug, so I'm Denji and I'm doing all right, even though all my friends are dead. And like there's no like the concept is kind of a gag, but the last few pages are just him with the dogs and Nayata. Oh, Alita, Jockey Bacon actually hasn't read this chapter yet. This is crazy. The But yeah, so yeah, I feel like Fujimoto usually does very straight endings. Like Goodbye Yuri is very straight. Obviously, Look Back is. So I don't know.
Look Back's kind of an exception. Look Back kind of plays it straight the whole way through. It's a very not cynical thing.
It's very referential.
Goodbye Ari, it ends on a joke.
It is,
though, right?
yeah, it is not.
Well,
straight.
yeah, but the joke is like the same joke. It's like a bittersweet joke, right? It's like, oh, explosion. I needed to make it exciting. Like I don't think it's like ha ha funny. It's like soft theme funny. It's the explosion from the beginning, right? Unless I'm forgetting something.
I thought it was really funny, but also was like poignant.
But Goodbye Yuri sucks. Did you ever think about that? I gave it a 9, guys. I'm just making fun.
Goodbye Yuri is definitely better than Fire Punch, that's for sure.
Embarrassing. I would never catch myself saying something so stupid in public, Jockey Bait. But there was no gag at the end. That's crazy. They were hugging or something. And EliteAri, do you have a bunch of notes you want to read off, or have we covered it all? Or
there's a few I could read out. We'll see if there's anything interesting
here.
We're
wrapping things up.
We forgot to mention the best double page spread in this whole thing. I have no idea what chapter it's from, but it's when Agni goes to save the twin that's like missing or whatever. Well, I guess he doesn't really save her, but there's like a page where he like sets himself on fire, and the next like the other side of the double page spread is just black, and it's like, whoa, this is so cool. That was the coolest double page spread, basically. There's the whole thing of Agni becoming Doma. I don't think we talked about that at all.
Oh, EliteAri, just to interrupt you because you're doing notes and I don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
They did the joke. I think they did it's not really a joke this time, but they did the thing where we cut away from the cool fight, because they do it in the Agni situation that you were just talking about, and when he's fighting the cool can actually talk guy later too, which is epic. We hate fights here.
Yeah, those fights were very cool. Yeah.
Anyway, EliteAri, back to Doma or something.
Yeah, he's like Doma or something. I don't know. They've mentioned it a few times. Nenato is pretty great because she has we've talked about, everyone he likes her, but she has the unique relationship of knowing like the true Agni before this Agniism stuff, which I thought was really cool. Like she basically, through Togata and her interference in Agni's life, like knows the kind of true Agni in a way that no one else does, which I thought was cool. There's the helmet guy.
It is crazy that Togata is referenced as limited as she is, huh? Like, I said she again. There's one like fake out vision where he's talking about a bunch of movies and Top Gun and Tom Cruise. That was actually a funny gag.
That was really funny.
And that's it, right?
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie thing itself, the theater thing is...
Yeah.
That's inherently... You can't separate that from Togata, but yeah. Explicit, there's only 2 I can think of. It's that scene, and also when he's thinking about, everybody who has suffered because of him, when he's kind of breaking from the fake peace that he has. He thinks about how Togata died because of him. That's the only other Togata thing I can think of.
Oh, and I guess Luna towards the end hugs him while he's on fire, just like Togata did.
True.
But yeah. Anyway, EliteAri hates Togata, so he doesn't like that we interrupted his note to say Togata good.
No, that was my note. Go ahead.
While we're still interrupting, real quick, the Doma thing. Well, I don't want to get too far for the Doma thing. There was one thing I thought was cool. When Neneto comes to she basically breaks his comes to kind of take him away from this piece that he has, as as kind of fake as it is. She comes to take him away from it, and it's while he's ice fishing. like Doma was. I thought that was really cool. That's when I started thinking about he's kind of like Doma now.
Oh, great point. I didn't recognize that. Yeah,
I thought that was cool. So continue. Sorry.
Okay, there's the guy with the helmet, which is like a Griffith reference, obviously. He like looks just like him. And we have Guts, who's Agni. We have, and that's not a joke, that is clearly a Griffith reference. Then I have a quote here. No, it's obviously true. Lower your fist already, Agni, everyone but you wants to be happy. That's very true. Thank you. Good line. Thank you, Fujimoto. I got mad at the power scaling. Oh my god. This whole time, like, yeah, Fire Punch is gonna destroy Sun. Sun thinks he's so strong and stuff, and
the great Sun, he's the strongest.
Yeah, I got so mad when he like beat Agni and almost killed him, like got his fire out, but which made it even better when he like touched him and killed him. So great, yep. And then I just have 2 more quotes. I said, Lamau, this is great. I don't even know what this is. Oh yeah, the thing about the faces and stuff, and like Sun is getting mad at the fact that Agni looks different. He doesn't look like the Agni that's in his mind, and it just reminds me of like whenever I see like a character in a story and they're like slightly different, or they're in like a different art style or something. I'm like, that's not the same character. This is so dumb. Why are they doing this? And I was like, yep,
Naruto Shippuden, so right. We're subtweeting you.
Yep.
Attack on Titan after season 3. EliteAri hates that.
Thinking.
So true.
He actually loves that stuff, so he's a hypocrite.
Well,
right
they
now.
grew up. They were older. That's the difference. If there was no time skip, I'd be mad.
No,
right?
the lines were wrong, and they were too short.
Right.
What do you call that? Narrow.
Yeah.
Sun thought the main character was character assassinated. That is so meta.
True. It's very Attack on Titan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's quite funny.
All right, that's it.
That's actually Villain Saga.
On the point about the blacking out part with the double page spread, I thought this was really interesting. I didn't think about this in the moment or piece it together. I don't know if this was intentional, but I got very used to that. Whenever Agni would be on fire again, he would black out and do something he like really, really bad, something he kind of normally wouldn't do consciously. And that started with the Doma thing when he goes and kills Doma and all the kids, and I've gotten used to that pattern now because he does it a couple more times. So in the confrontation at the kind of I guess the place he was at with all the girls, when the kid who inherited the Doma fire powers lights him on fire again, I was so thinking this is when he's going to black out again and then slaughter everyone here. Something like that was going to happen. But he doesn't black out there. And I think Fujimoto was doing that intentionally, setting up this pattern.
Well, he's very sure of himself then, right?
Exactly. He's now kind of resolved himself, and but because now it's an act. He's putting on the act of being Fire Punch again, but now it's not, him blacking out and he like a split between Agni and Fire Punch. He's kind of accepted
it's kind
the
of a
role he has to
reference,
play.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go. No, yeah. Say how.
Well, because Agni was following down Tagata, and Tagata was like, "I hate you. You're not good," and he like playing it up because he was upset. But this time Agni actually does leave. Like they don't follow him. And I brought up the following thing last time. I remember it's sort of like a thing that happens in Fire Punch.
True. I didn't think about
even
that.
the little girl at the end after she set him on fire, like screams "Big Bro" and like wants him to come back. But it is an interesting thing because part of it's an act, but part of it's not, because it's like him prioritizing what he cares about most. Like clearly he does care about the girls, but he just cares about Luna more, which is expressed like right before that. So it's kind of an act and kind of not really. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, is all the times he acts, is it actually like him?
I mean, there's definitely a point being made that there's
like
the truth
what he
in
actually
it.
wants.
There's definitely a point to be made, like what the whole truth is, perception thing, blah blah blah. That there is a layer of truth to the acting.
Yeah. Every good actor puts a piece of himself in the thingy. That's what Bacon was saying about writing characters. Oh my god, it all ties back together.
Yeah.
True.
So yeah.
I think you made me come back around on Fire. But this always happens. It's happened with Diebuster. Now I kind of like
I can talk him into anything. Bring me up something. What do we hate? Arcane can't talk you into liking that. Oh, Mia already likes that one, huh? Crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Could we talk him out of it? No, I don't think so. We're very mean on Arcane, and it's not very smart. So,
I do think it's a pretty dumb show at a lot of times. I do think it's
I've seen the tweets. You love it.
It's fun. No, I love it. It's fun. I just don't. It's not very clever.
But it thinks it's
sometimes
very clever,
sometimes it's like it's just whatever. This isn't about Arcane.
It's the only thing I think I can call in recent memory that EliteAri dislikes that isn't something I've forced on him. So whenever EliteAri dislikes something, I'm always mad about it. I guess Akira is another one. Or there was another movie. But it's like, oh my god, me and EliteAri both shitting on something. This happens once every blue moon. Okay, this is crazy. But anyway.
I gotta listen to your videos. On this.
Stop chilling at our Arcane video, EliteAri. You call it. You unprofessional hack. You selfish bastard.
Arcane was good.
That's true. The funny thing is, we both said it was pretty good, but we just shit on it for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's anyway, that's the best.
Are we wrapping things up? Do we got anything else to say about the Great Fire Punch? Speak now, forever hold your peace, until we reread it again in a year's time, and we'll all meet back at the same place. No, thank you. This was my second time through. I'm Fire Punched out.
I would like a sequel to this. It'd be very fun.
Silly.
I'd like to see this animated. I think that'd be really fun too.
That's true.
Oh, yeah. Silly Mia. Unbelievable.
I would like it if it was very serious and cinematic.
Yeah. We should
I hope it's very gray.
I hope I hope the fire is like
muted.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope it's black and white and has no audio.
Except for the
that
fire.
Would be very on brand.
Oh my god.
True. The only sound is the fire crackling, and it's obviously added in post. That would be very funny and very meta.
Yeah.
I just got the best fucking ideas. Let me write it. But true. We don't know what we're doing next. We haven't discussed it at all, so you'll stay tuned. It probably won't be on my channel because, my goodness, I'm just hogging all the spotlight here. Though it's kind of glad it's not on EliteAri's channel right now because this motherfucker didn't say nothing this goddamn discussion. It's almost like we were talking about Vinland Saga or something. But we probably got a Vinland Saga chapter. Oh my god, look at the time of the month. There might be one in a week. I'm not sure. We'll all be doing things. Mir will get his chapter review up very quickly, I'm sure. Sharky Bacon's slaving away on podcasts and the such. He's streaming now. This is crazy. You can check out all these things. You can click on their little titular things in the titular title on the YouTube thingy. EliteAri, he's always doing nonsense. He's going to stream soon. We're going to react to my great anime OST video if I can get it uploaded. These fucking Berserk movie soundtracks be getting me claimed. So stay tuned. We might do a Twitter poll. We might just decide what we want to do next. But I'm pretty sure we're taking at least a week off because, my goodness, just so much reading for me to do. Are we ending it? That's it?
I think so.
Wait.
Yeah, sounds good.
Wait. No, wait. Oh. What are each of our favorite characters from Fire Punch?
Togata.
Agni.
Kind of.
Oh my god.
I've come around to Agni. I don't think I like him at the start.
Haven't.
No, I like him because he got
not
so insane.
Not as your number one.
No, he's not number one. I just like how insane he got. I think that was great.
I did at one point, you can probably scroll through my media on my Twitter, I did do the Fujimoto character tier list in which it has a bunch of them. It was recent enough to have Nayata in it, and of course we put Togata, then Nayata, then Denji, then Power might have been up there, and then Isa I think we put at the top of A tier just to piss off EliteAri, that was great. And then we put Aki in D tier because he fucking sucks. But everybody could go and do that and post it on their Twitter if they wanted to. It's pretty funny as a concept, all the Fujimoto characters.
I guess I kind of don't like anyone. I like Togata, I guess, but Sun got ruined for me. I just didn't care about where Sun went. I just didn't.
Sun always sucked, I
thought Sun was funny.
He was pissing that one time. I'm gonna be pissing as soon as we click not record chat.
True.
Secret. Are you satisfied, EliteAri, with everybody's favorite character?
Yep, very good.
We used to do tier lists at the end of these things, huh? We used to make everybody do them. But anyway, we didn't think that far ahead.
Nope.
Well, that brings us to the end of all this nonsense. We usually end things off. Jockey Bacon, how do we end things off again?
Support links in the description. Thanks.
Below, true.
He didn't say below. Support links in the description below. Thanks. EliteAri, know you say it really fast.
Somebody do the thanks.